Welcome to novelsaudio.com. We hope you have a relaxing and enjoyable time.
Chapter 21, The Truth Concerns Her. A game of masks and hidden agendas. A divorce agreement signed in haste leads to a fainting grandmother, a forced truce, and a dangerous new arrangement that thrusts both Keira and Lewis into a high-stakes game of suspicion and secrets. What happened? This chapter wastes no time in cranking up the tension. We open with Lewis and his assistant, Tom, dissecting the divorce agreement Keira sent. Tom, ever the suspicious loyalist, scoffs at the property division clause. Keira is offering Lewis nothing, which he finds laughable. But it's what Tom uncovers that really sets the mood. Keira only learned she was married a few days ago, and her past since leaving the Olsen family is frustratingly opaque. Lewis, quiet and calculating, files this away. He needs to find a researcher named Nora for a clinical Alzheimer's drug for his grandmother's sake. The story pivots to Keira. She receives a curt WhatsApp message from Lewis. "Come here." She sneaks out under the guise of taking out the trash, slides into his Bentley, and without a word, signs the 2 copies of the divorce agreement he hands her. She's eager, almost too eager, to do it tomorrow. Lewis, expecting hesitation, is intrigued and suspicious. He agrees, but fate has a sick sense of timing. Old Mrs. Horton, frail and sharp as a tack, appears behind them, having somehow made her way downstairs. She witnesses the exchange. The word divorce triggers her collapse. She clutches her chest, her face pale, and falls to the ground. In the hospital, the tension smolders. The doctor warns them, no more. Agitation. Lewis, who moments ago seemed carved from stone, shows his first crack, his hands trembling as he sits on the bench. Keira watches him silent. Inside the ward, the old lady wakes, her voice hoarse with fear. She asks if it was all a dream. Lewis lies through his teeth. "We're not getting a divorce." He hands over the marriage certificate and household registration book on demand. Keira, cornered by the doctor's warning, plays along. That night, the facade of unity settles. Keira works on a research document about Alzheimer's clinical drugs, stuck on a technical problem. Lewis texts her, "Postpone the divorce until Grandma stabilizes." She agrees, but adds a cold condition. "After Grandma gets better, we should get divorced as soon as possible." Lewis, reading her reply, finds her inscrutable. Then, the old lady strikes with a matriarch's cunning. She insists Keira work at Horton Group, so the two can grow closer. Lewis, knowing he's being played, agrees, but his mind is elsewhere. In the corridor, Tom whispers his conspiracy theory. Keira orchestrated the whole scene to avoid the divorce and infiltrate the company. Lewis, a glint in his eye, replies, "If I don't keep her in sight, how will her plan be exposed?" Back in the ward, as Keira lies on the couch, the old lady's voice softens. "Let me share a secret with you." Keira's pulse quickens. Has Grandma remembered something? Key moments. Tom reveals Keira's past is deliberately hidden since leaving the Olsen family, and the timing of her discovering the marriage feels deliberately suspicious. Keira signs the divorce agreement without hesitation and demands to divorce tomorrow, crushing Lewis's expectation of resistance. Old Mrs. Horton collapses after witnessing the divorce discussion, forcing a temporary ceasefire and a web of lies to protect her health. Lewis, seeing his grandmother's fragility, shows a rare crack in his composure, trembling hands and all. The old lady orchestrates a job for Keira at Horton Group, a move that both parties interpret as a gambit for their own ends. Character development. This chapter peels back layers on both Lewis and Keira, revealing the people beneath their masks. For Lewis, we see the man behind the icy CEO. Watching him loosen his collar and sit down with trembling hands is a humanizing moment. This isn't just a power play for him. His grandmother is his weak spot, his anchor. His decision to keep Keira close isn't just about suspicion, it's about control born from fear. He's a man who has to see the threat to neutralize it, but now that threat is wearing a ring and a fake smile. His paranoia, while justified, feels fragile. Keira, on the other hand, remains an enigma wrapped in a puzzle. She's pragmatic to the point of coldness. She signs the papers without a flinch. She agrees to postpone, but only with a deadline. Yet her curiosity about the old lady's secret hints at a deeper vulnerability. She's not just a pawn. She may have her own agenda that doesn't involve hurting Grandma. Her research on Alzheimer's drugs ties into the very thing that's keeping her trapped. Is she genuine, or is she using the old lady's condition as a shield? the author keeps us guessing. The old lady is the unexpected kingmaker here. She's not just a frail victim, she's a tactician. She manipulates both Keira and Lewis into proximity, using her health as a weapon of emotional blackmail. She understands that love can grow, even from a lie. Her push to get Keira into Horton Group is a stroke of genius or a monumental mistake, depending on whose side you're on. My thoughts: this chapter is a masterclass in controlled tension. The author doesn't rely on dramatic confessions or explosions of emotion. Instead, the heat builds through subtle beats. The silence in the Bentley, the trembling hands on the hospital bench, the polite text messages that carry the weight of war. I found myself holding my breath during the scene where Keira signs the papers. It was too easy, too clean, and that's exactly the point. The author trusts the reader to feel the wrongness beneath the surface. The dual perspective works beautifully here. We're inside both heads at different moments, yet we know less than each of them. Lewis thinks Keira is plotting. Tom is certain of it. Keira has her own needs, a public offering, a research paper for a cure. But are these primary or secondary? That's the itch this chapter leaves. The ending, with the old lady's whisper about a secret, is a perfect cliffhanger. It promises answers while refusing to deliver them. It's infuriating in the best way. The writing here is sharp, with dialogue that serves double duty. Every line advances plot or character. Often both. Lewis's "I have no objections, sign it" is a test. Keira's "very" is a counterpunch. The author knows that the most devastating moves are often the quietest. I was on edge the entire read, and that's the mark of a chapter that understands narrative tension isn't about what happens, it's about what you're afraid might happen. Rating ********4. 85 what happens next. The old lady's secret could be the key to everything. Perhaps a missing piece of her memory that ties Keira to a larger conspiracy, or a hidden truth about the marriage itself that changes the rules. Keira's first day at Horton Group is bound to be a minefield. She needs access to their database for her research paper, but Lewis and Tom will be watching her every move. Expect cat-and-mouse tension, office politics, and possibly a discovery, either Keira's hidden skills or a clue that exposes why her past was buried. The drug trial for Nora and the Alzheimer's cure will likely intersect with Keira's work, raising the stakes beyond mere marital drama and into life-or-death territory. And if Grandma remembers something critical, the whole charade might shatter. Final verdict: this chapter vaults the story from a standard contractual marriage trope into a layered psychological drama of suspicion, hidden motives, and forced intimacy. The pacing is taut, the character work is nuanced, and the cliffhanger is deliciously cruel. It's a chapter that keeps you turning pages, not for action, but for the answers buried in every glance and every aborted sentence. A must-read for fans of slow-burn tension and morally gray characters. Chapter 22. The secret weapon named Kitten. Grandma Horton wants to spill the tea on her intimidating grandson's biggest weakness. But Keira has much bigger fish to fry than petty marital games, especially when a ridiculous new job lands her in the middle of corporate politics, a skeptical boss, and a research library she desperately needs to crack. What happened? Keira enters Grandma Horton's room with high hopes, expecting a breakthrough clue about the mysterious marriage she's trapped in. Instead, she gets served the juiciest piece of family gossip. The cold, untouchable, 6-foot-something Lewis Horton is terrified of cats. It's a delightfully humanizing detail that hits Keira with an unexpected pang of nostalgia. She knew a boy once, back in childhood, who also couldn't stand cats. For reasons she half acknowledges and half suppresses, she stopped liking them too. Grandma, ever the matchmaker, doesn't stop at secrets. She orchestrates Keira's new job at Horton Group, puppy-sitting a Shiba Inu. Lewis, predictably furious, immediately overrides his grandmother's ridiculous orders and assigns Keira to the new Energy Research and Development Division, Team 1. He wants her where he can watch her, where she might slip up. But Keira, seizing a small act of rebellion, names the puppy Kitten right in front of his scowling face. The real battlefield, however, is the 38th floor. Tom lays out the hierarchy coldly. Everyone here holds at least a master's degree from elite schools. Keira is the first undergraduate to set foot in this division, and she's there only as a reward for making Grandma happy. Worse, Tom reminds her sternly that Lewis wants the Marriage kept secret to avoid complications during the inevitable divorce. Keira shrugs it off with painful indifference. Team 1's leader, Jalen Riley, is a proud, abrasive relative of the Horton family who earned his position through merit. He immediately despises Keira on principle. To him, she's just another nepotistic interloper. He dresses her down publicly, mocks her credentials, and warns her not to expect any favors. Keira takes it in stride, playing with Kitten, biding her time. But when no one assigns her work, she heads straight for the data library, determined to research Alzheimer's treatments. Jalen intercepts her, sneering that an undergraduate has no business touching international-level material. Keira's response? She picks up his own project documentation, flips through it at lightning speed, and challenges him head-on. #key moments, Grandma. Horton reveals Lewis's secret cat phobia, triggering a surprising emotional echo in Keira's memory. Keira names the Shiba Inu Kitten, a small but defiant act of rebellion against Lewis. Jalen Riley's immediate hostility toward Keira, exposing the deep classism and corporate meritocracy within Horton Group. Keira's cold dismissal of Lewis's divorce plans, revealing her emotional detachment. Keira's rapid-fire reading of technical material, hinting at her true intellectual capabilities and a mystery about her past. Character development. This chapter beautifully peels back layers of Keira's guarded personality. She's not just a passive bride thrust into an arranged marriage, she's carrying deep, unprocessed history. The moment Grandma mentions the cat phobia, Keira's thoughts drift to a boy she once knew, a boy who also hated cats, and she admits she changed. Her preference because of him, it's a profoundly vulnerable detail. Keira hasn't just walked into this marriage blind, she's walking and haunted by someone from her past. Her love of dogs now reads less like a genuine preference and more like a scar she's turned into a lifestyle. Lewis, though barely present in this chapter, becomes more human through Grandma's gossip. The image of this towering, arrogant CEO terrified of a small, fluffy cat is both hilarious and endearing. It breaks the marble statue fantasy and reveals he's still a human being with quirks, shaped by his family's history. The tension between his cold professional persona and his grandmother's soft manipulation shows he's not entirely in control of his own life. Jalen Riley is the new wildcard. He's not just a villain, he's a mirror of the toxic corporate culture that rewards pedigree over potential. His anger feels earned, he's worked hard, he has a chip on his shoulder about family privilege, and he sees Keira as the embodiment of everything unfair about his world. But his arrogance blinds him to the possibility that she might actually be competent. His character sets up a delicious rivalry that could transform into grudging respect or bitter conflict. The relationship between Keira and Tom also grows. Tom is the gatekeeper, the enforcer of Lewis's rules, but Keira's nonchalance unsettles him. She's not impressed by Lewis's power or Tom's warnings. She's playing her own game, and nobody's figured out the rules yet. My thoughts. This chapter is a masterclass in character-driven tension. The author plants so many seeds here that I'm practically vibrating with theories. First, there's the boy who was scared of cats from Keira's past. Could this boy be Lewis? The timeline fits. Both Keira and Lewis are roughly the same age. If they had a childhood connection that Keira doesn't fully remember, it would explain the inexplicable marriage and Grandma's secret knowledge. It would also add a breathtaking layer of tragic irony. Keira married to a man she once cared about but doesn't recognize, and Lewis married to a woman who shares a buried trauma. The drama potential is enormous. I also love how the author uses the dog, Kitten, as both comic relief and symbolic weapon. Keira naming the dog Kitten is a beautiful middle finger to Lewis's authority. It's petty, it's clever, and it signals that she's not afraid to chip away at his armor. But it also keeps the cat-related memory alive, a constant reminder of that lost boy. The technical showdown with Jalen is a classic underdog moment, but it's handled with restraint. Keira doesn't explode or expose hidden genius dramatically. She simply flips through the pages, challenging him with quiet confidence. This isn't a Cinderella story where a fairy godmother appears. This is a slow reveal of hidden expertise. She knows something, she's capable of something. But what? Her goal isn't corporate glory, it's finding a cure for Alzheimer's to help Grandma Horton remember. This shifts her from a passive pawn to an active protagonist with a clear, emotional mission. She's not here to win at office politics. She's here to save a woman who might hold the key to her own history. The only weak point is that Lewis remains too distant. I want to see his reaction to the kitten name. I want to feel his frustration, his confusion, his own buried memories. But that's likely reserved for the next chapter. The pacing is excellent. Leave fans hungry, not stuffed. Rating ******4. 8.5 What happens next? Jalen's dismissal of Keira is about to backfire spectacularly. Her fast reading isn't a bluff. I predict she'll soon correct a critical error in his project or produce an insight no one expected, making him look foolish. This will likely either enrage him further or force him to grudgingly reevaluate her. Meanwhile, Grandma's secret about Lewis and cats will echo into an upcoming scene. Maybe Keira uses it, maybe she accidentally triggers it, or maybe Lewis has the same nostalgic reaction she does. And then there's the real looming question: who is Dr. South, and why does Jalen use that name as the gold standard of brilliance? If Keira * is Dr. South, or was once associated with them, the big reveal is going to be explosive. Final verdict: this chapter elevates the novel from a simple contract marriage drama into a layered mystery with emotional depth. Keira's hidden past, the boy with the cat phobia, the Alzheimer's research mission, and the glossy corporate war all weave together into a narrative that promises both heartbreak and triumph. The writing stays sharp, the humor is dry, and the character dynamics feel rich and real. If the author can deliver on the looming revelations, this story is going to be unforgettable. Chapter 23. Bookshelves, broken pride, and a husband who finally shows up when a trip to the resource library turns into a confrontation with a bitter ex. Keira proves she doesn't need anyone to fight her battles, but it sure helps when her husband shows up at the perfect moment. What happened? This chapter opens with a small but crucial victory for Keira: vindication. After Jalen dismisses her understanding of the technical materials as shallow boasting, Luca Barker steps in to confirm that she genuinely worked under Professor Miller on a major research project. It's a quiet but satisfying moment, especially for anyone who's ever been underestimated in a room full of people who should know better. Jalen, predictably, doesn't back down gracefully. He doubles down, insults her, and sends her off to the resource library like she's being punished. But Keira isn't the type to wallow. She heads to the 60th floor, which houses the Horton Group's private library, and immediately gets lost in the sheer wealth of knowledge around her. There's something almost joyful in the way she forgets her phone, forgets the time, forgets everything but the thrill of discovery. It's a rare moment of peace, and it doesn't last. Enter Jake. He corners her between the shelves, and their conversation quickly unravels into something ugly. He accuses her of manipulating old Mrs. Horton to get close to Lewis, dismisses her job as a redundant position. And then, when she doesn't crumble, he offers her a deal. Leave Lewis, become his woman, and he'll give her a real role in Group 2. When she refuses, his composure shatters. He grabs her, slams her into a bookshelf, and tries to kiss her by force. Keira doesn't freeze. She doesn't scream. She knees him in the groin, slaps him across the face, and delivers a verbal takedown that had me laughing out loud. She compares Lewis to him, unfavorably, for Jake, and walks away, only to find Lewis standing at the end of the aisle, having witnessed everything. The chapter ends with Jake shouting one last pathetic insult, and Lewis's voice cuts through the tension. Who said he can't do anything? Key moments: Luca Barker confirms Keira's academic credentials, giving her a win against Jalen's dismissiveness. Keira discovers the Horton Group's massive private library and becomes completely absorbed. Jake corners Keira and tries to manipulate her with a thinly veiled ultimatum. Keira physically defends herself with a knee strike, a slap, and brutal verbal precision. Lewis appears at the scene, having overheard everything, and finally speaks up. Character development: this chapter does something I've been waiting for. It drops the mask on Keira's past with Jake. We've known there was history, the engagement to Isla, the betrayal, but here we finally see the emotional weight she's been carrying. She admits she seriously considered being with him. She almost accepted his proposal. That's not just a footnote in her backstory, it's a wound she thought she'd already healed. Watching her face him again, with clarity and steel in her spine, is deeply satisfying. She doesn't beg him to explain. She doesn't cry. She says thank you for not marrying me and means it. but what really stands out is how she handles the assault. She doesn't wait for rescue. She doesn't play the victim. She knees him, slaps him, and then verbally eviscerates him with a comparison that's both hilarious and devastating. It's not just self-defense, it's reclaiming her dignity in real time. And then she turns and sees Lewis, and for the first time in the chapter, she's caught off guard. That moment of vulnerability, after all that strength, is what makes her feel so human. Jake, meanwhile, continues to reveal himself as a man who mistakes entitlement for love. He genuinely believes he's the better option, that his family's status justifies his betrayal, that Keira should be grateful for his scraps. His rage at her rejection is telling. He doesn't want her happiness. He wants ownership. And Lewis, he's been a silent observer for most of this chapter, watching from the shadows, letting Keira handle herself. But that final line, "Who said he can't do anything?" changes the energy entirely. He's not just a bystander anymore. He's stepping into the frame. Hash my thoughts, let me just say it. That slap was cathartic. I don't usually cheer for physical violence in books, but after Jake grabbed her wrist and slammed her into a bookshelf, I was ready to riot. The fact that Keira handled it herself, without waiting for a man to save her, made the moment even stronger. And the dialogue afterward? "My husband is taller than you, more handsome than you, and has much better stamina than you, I had to put the book down and clap. The author made a smart choice here by not letting Lewis intervene too early. If he had jumped in the moment Jake grabbed her, it would have undermined Keira's agency. Instead, we get to see her defend herself, and Lewis's presence becomes about witnessing and validating her strength rather than replacing it. That's good storytelling. I also loved the small moment with Luca in the beginning. It's easy to forget that Keira has allies scattered throughout this world, and Luca's quiet confirmation of her competence felt earned. Jalen's hostility is frustrating, but at least now we know it's not personal. He's stressed and sleep-deprived, which doesn't excuse his rudeness but at least explains it. The only thing that felt slightly rushed was the transition to Lewis's POV at the start. We jump from Keira in the library to Lewis dealing with Grandma's asterisk. Fragile grandma do not agitate, asterisk nickname, which is funny but a little jarring. Still, it sets up the lunch invitation nicely, and the contrast between Grandma's playful manipulation and the tension in the library works well. Hash rating ****4. 8.5 hash what happens next. Lewis has finally entered the scene, and his presence is going to change everything. Jake just threatened him, insulted him, and attempted to assault his wife in his own building. There's no way. Lewis walks away from this without consequences. I predict Jake is about to find out what happens when you poke a bear who's been quietly watching from the shadows. We also haven't resolved the Group 1 tension with Jalen, and I suspect Keira's research in the library will lead to something that changes the trajectory of that project. She's not just there to look pretty or fetch coffee, she's genuinely capable, and I think the novel is setting her up for a breakthrough that will force everyone, including Lewis, to see her differently. And speaking of Lewis and Keira, their lunch plans got derailed, but that's just postponing the inevitable. Grandma won't let this slide, and I suspect she's about to become an even more active force in pushing them together. Also, Keira just called Lewis handsome with good stamina in front of an audience. That's going to come back up in conversation, and I'm here for the awkwardness. Hash final verdict: this chapter is a turning point. It's the moment Keira stops being defined by her past with Jake and starts claiming her own narrative, both professionally and personally. The confrontation is tense, the payoff is satisfying, and the final reveal of Lewis's presence adds the perfect dramatic button. It balances emotional depth, action, and character growth without losing the pacing that makes this novel so addictive. If you've been waiting for Keira to stop being underestimated, this is the chapter where she finally shows everyone, including her husband, exactly what she's made of. Chapter 24. Good Stamina, the art of awkward payback and proving your worth. No good deed goes unpunished or uncapitalized. When Keira gets rescued from a bully, she must dodge an embarrassing blunder, prove herself in the office, and face her husband's unsettling good memory. Hash what happened. This chapter is a masterclass in awkward tension, underdog power moves, and the kind of social chess that makes office politics feel like a high-stakes game. It starts with Jalen stepping up as the unlikeliest of heroes. When Jake tries to force Keira into his research group, it's Jalen, the arrogant, grumpy team leader, who shuts him down. And not just any shutdown, Jalen eviscerates Jake's nepotism-ridden hypocrisy with surgical precision. What right do you have to mock her? She's just a small employee, and you, a college graduate, are the leader of the second team. Who are you to talk about nepotism? The exchange is brutal, sharp, and deeply satisfying. Jake even tries to bribe Jalen with a chance to meet his idol, Dr. South, but Jalen, to his credit, refuses. It's a small but significant turning point for his character. Keira, meanwhile, is stuck in her own private hell of embarrassment. She'd earlier made a flippant comment about good stamina in front of her husband, Lewis, and now she's terrified he heard it. Spoiler, he did, and he weaponizes it. During their shared lunch, Lewis rolls up his sleeves, showing off his muscular forearm, and says with a deadpan face, "Only by keeping up. With nutrition can we have good stamina." Keira turns beet red and flees under the excuse of needing to feed a kitten. The man is shameless and he knows it. Back at the R&D department, Jalen's conscience bothers him. He begins to suspect that Keira's aggressive drive to study isn't arrogance but desperation, a reaction to Jake's mistreatment. So he orders Luca to give her real work, hoping to humble her. But things don't go as planned. Keira blasts through basic assignments in half an hour, then solves Luca's week-long technical roadblock in an hour. Baffled and humiliated, Luca escalates and hands her the team's key technical problem, the one that has stumped Jalen for a month. The chapter ends with the challenge delivered, leaving us to wonder, can she actually pull it off? Key moments. Jalen publicly humiliates Jake by calling out his nepotism and refusing to bribe him with a Dr. South meeting. Jake is left fuming, clutching his bruised body and pride, promising revenge. Lewis casually torments Keira with her own good stamina comment during lunch, making her flee in embarrassment. Jalen softens and orders Luca to give Keira real work to test her and occupy her. Keira shocks Luca by breezing through assignments and solving a week-long technical problem in an hour. Luca, out of desperation and maybe spite, hands over the team's toughest unsolved problem to Keira. Character development. This chapter is where Jalen's character arc pivots from grumpy gatekeeper to grumpy but decent mentor. His decision to stand up for Keira isn't noble in the traditional sense. He's still arrogant, still rude, still rolling his eyes. But he shows moral clarity when it matters. He refuses to sell out his principles for a chance to meet his idol, and later, he reflects on Keira's situation with unexpected empathy. No wonder she was eager to learn more, he thinks, admitting that maybe she wasn't overreaching but surviving. It's a subtle but powerful shift, showing that Jalen's harshness isn't cruelty, it's a defense mechanism hiding a sense of fairness. Keira's development is quieter but equally important. She's caught between two worlds, the cutthroat office politics below and the mind games with her husband above. With Jake, she stays silent, letting Jalen fight her battle. But in the R&D department, she lets her work speak for itself. There's no bragging, no gloating, just results. She hands in perfect work and asks modestly if there's more. This quiet competence is her superpower, and it's threatening everyone's expectations. And then there's Lewis. He's a dangerous combination of charming and terrifying. He says nothing when Keira walks into his office, but the moment the door closes, he's already 2 steps ahead. The photograph he takes for "Fragile Grandma Do Not Agitate" shows he's actively managing her reputation with his family. And when he throws her own words back at her, it's not just teasing, it's a warning. He heard everything, he sees everything, and he's not letting her forget. My thoughts. This chapter had me grinning like an idiot and cringing in second-hand embarrassment all at once. The good stamina callback is one of the best comedic beats in the story so far. It's such a small, stupid comment, but the author milks it for everything it's worth. Lewis's deadpan delivery, the rolled-up sleeves, the pointed look, it's chef's kiss. It perfectly establishes the dynamic between them. She says something reckless, he files it away, and then he strikes when she least expects it. It's playful, it's tense, and it's deeply satisfying. But the real highlight for me was the office subplot. The way Keira dismantles Luca's technical problems is a classic underdog moment, but it's handled with restraint. She doesn't gloat. She doesn't lecture, she just does the work. And that makes it so much more powerful. You can feel the tectonic shift happening in the background. Everyone expects her to fail, but she keeps delivering, and the anxiety in the room is palpable. Luca's final decision to hand her the impossible problem feels less like a challenge and more like surrender. He knows she might actually solve it, and he's terrified. The author's writing choices here are smart. The chapter balances tension and humor perfectly, and the pacing is tight. Every scene serves a purpose. The confrontation with Jake, the lunch with Lewis, the office test. Nothing feels wasted. And the emotional beats, Jalen's reluctant kindness, Keira's quiet humiliation, Luca's growing shock are earned. Rating. ******4. 8.5 What happens next? The obvious setup is the technical problem. Keira is about to tackle the first team's biggest bottleneck, and if she solves it, the consequences will be huge. Jalen will have to confront the fact that the undergrad he dismissed is leagues ahead of him. Luca will have to eat his words. And Jake is meeting Dr. South tomorrow, and that's a bomb waiting to go off. Dr. South is Keira's idol too, and given how the story loves symmetry, there's a good chance Jake's attempt to use Dr. South as a weapon will backfire spectacularly. Also, let's talk about that fragile grandma group chat. Lewis sending a photo of them having lunch together suggests he's actively managing Keira's image in his family. That's not something you do for a fake marriage. Is he starting to see her as more than a legal arrangement? And will Keira's accidental, good stamina comment make its way back to Grandma? The potential for family drama is delicious. Final verdict Chapter 24 is a near-perfect blend of comedy, tension, and quiet triumph. It advances every major character arc while keeping the stakes personal and intimate. Jalen's reluctant heroism, Keira's unassuming brilliance, and Lewis's unsettling charm all come together in a chapter that feels both satisfying and hungry for more. The good stamina bit alone is worth the price of admission. If this chapter is any indication, the story is only getting sharper, funnier, and more addictive. Chapter 6. Mrs. Olsen is her mother. The quietest bombshells are the ones that don't make a sound until you're already bleeding. In this chapter, Keira cruises through a typical Friday at the Horton group, finishing a technical problem for the R&D department only to have her senior Luca brush off her work until Monday, classic end-of-week energy. Meanwhile, Lewis gets roped into a hospital visit by his scheming grandmother, old Mrs. Horton, who fakes chest pains to force some quality time between him and Keira. But Keira, knowing her own boundaries, takes a taxi separately, leaving Lewis in an oddly sour mood. The real gut punch arrives when Keira arrives at the hospital and spots Mrs. Olsen, her biological mother, walking arm-in-arm with Isla, the daughter who replaced her. From a window in the VIP ward, Keira watches the intimate mother-daughter scene unfold, and old Mrs. Horton, standing behind her, recognizes the resemblance and delivers the chapter's devastating last line. "She's your mother." What happened? Friday afternoon at the Horton group had that electric pre-weekend buzz, and Luca was practically vibrating with joy as he packed up to leave. Keira, fresh off solving a tricky R&D problem that took her 2 full hours, tried to update him on her progress, but he waved her off with that universal, leave it till Monday dismissal that every working person knows too well. It stung, but only slightly. She knew the unwritten rule about not ruining someone's weekend with work talk. Over on the rooftop, Lewis was finishing up his own day when he called his grandmother, expecting her to be at some relative's house. Instead, she was at the hospital, laying on the gilt thick with talk of chest pains and lonely nights without water. Lewis saw right through her transparent matchmaking scheme, putting him and Keira in the same hospital room, forcing proximity, but he went anyway, reluctantly texting Keira an offer to pick her up. She declined, politely but firmly, already in a taxi and on her way. Lewis found himself annoyed by her efficiency, by how easily she kept her distance. Keira didn't dwell on it. She carried her little dog, Kitten, into the hospital, heading straight for the VIP ward, her mind on other things. That's when she saw them, Mrs. Olsen and Isla, fresh from a checkup, walking arm-in-arm. Mrs. Olsen looked pale and thin but still elegant, her face soft as she listened to whatever Isla was saying. Aunt South, the longtime nanny, was there too, and the three of them moved together like a unit, a family unit. Their conversation drifted toward Keira herself, with Aunt South and Isla painting her as ungrateful and cold, more focused on repaying old Mrs. Horton's kindness than the woman who raised her. Mrs. Olsen tried to defend her weakly, but the damage was done. From the VIP ward window, Keira watched them leave, and old Mrs. Horton, noticing her gaze, followed her eyes and made the connection. "She's your mother." Key moments. Keira finishes a complex R&D task, but Luca tells her to enjoy the weekend and pushes the work to Monday. Louis realizes his grandmother is faking illness to force him and Keira together at the hospital. Keira politely refuses Louis's offer to pick her up, taking a taxi instead, and Louis is annoyed by her efficiency. Keira watches from a hospital window as Mrs. Olsen, Isla, and Aunt South walk and talk, overhearing their conversation about her. Old Mrs. Horton recognizes Mrs. Olsen and says the devastating line, "She's your mother." Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing character through reaction, not action. Keira doesn't have a dramatic moment where she confronts anyone or breaks down, she just watches. And that watching says everything. She sees Mrs. Olsen's pale face, her thin frame. The way she nods resignedly at whatever Isla is saying, and she doesn't rush down to demand answers or throw accusations. She simply turns back reluctantly, then lies to old Mrs. Horton with a gentle face. There's a quiet dignity in Keira here, a self-control that feels both admirable and heartbreaking. She's been so conditioned to expect nothing that she doesn't even try to claim her place in that scene. Louis, meanwhile, is a contradiction in motion. He knows his grandmother is manipulating him, and he goes along with it anyway, but he draws lines. He offers to pick up Keira, but when she refuses, he doesn't push. He's trying to respect her boundaries, to honor the fact that she has a boyfriend, but there's a petulant edge to his displeasure. He's annoyed that she didn't need him, and that annoyance reveals more than he'd probably like to admit. He's a man who's used to being needed, and Keira's independence unsettles him. Then there's Mrs. Olsen, glimpsed only through glass and other people's words. She's sick, she's tired, and she's stuck between a daughter who clearly cares, Isla, and a daughter she raised who seems to have abandoned her, Keira. But the way she weakly defends Keira had a hard life, suggests she knows more than she's saying. She's not a villain here, just a woman who maybe didn't fight hard enough. My thoughts. This chapter hit me harder than I expected, and it's because of what it didn't say. The tension isn't in shouting matches or dramatic confrontations. It's in the silence between Keira and Louis's text messages, in the way she takes a taxi to avoid being obligated to him, in the weight of watching your mother walk arm in arm with the woman who replaced you. The author understands that the cruelest scenes aren't the ones where characters scream at each other. They're the ones where someone watches from a window, invisible and aching. I also love the way this chapter balances tone. The beginning is almost breezy, Luca's excitement for the weekend, the easy rhythm of office life, and then it slowly tightens as Louis's annoyance creeps in, as the hospital becomes a stage for old Mrs. Horton's scheming, as Keira spots Mrs. Olsen. The pacing is deliberate and effective, lulling you into a false sense of normalcy before the emotional knife twist. And that final exchange between old Mrs. Horton and Keira? Perfect. The older woman doesn't pry, doesn't lecture, doesn't even seem surprised. She just makes the connection and says it plainly, like it's a fact that Keira has been trying to hide from. It's a quiet moment of recognition that changes everything. Rating ******4. 8.5 What happens next? The big question hanging over everything now is, will Keira confront Mrs. Olsen? She's been dancing around this marriage mystery, trying to figure out how she ended up hitched to Louis, but seeing her mother opens a new wound. Isla mentioned that Mrs. Olsen is meeting Dr. South tomorrow, the same mysterious figure who saved the Olsen families. Company 3 years ago. Coincidence? Probably not. Keira might try to visit her mother, or she might let old Mrs. Horton's scheming drag her into an unexpected family reunion. And Louis, still sulking about being rebuffed, might finally start asking the right questions about Keira's past. Final verdict. This chapter is the quiet heart of the story so far, a slow burn revelation that reframes everything we thought we knew about Keira's loneliness. It doesn't need explosions or ultimatums. It trusts the weight of a single observation, a single line, to do all the emotional heavy lifting. The character work is subtle, the tension is masterfully understated, and the ending leaves you desperate for the next chapter. This is a novel that understands silence, is louder than words. Chapter 26. She is your mother. The truth that wasn't there, a grandmother's hazy memory, reveals hidden knowledge about Keira's past that even she can't explain, while old tensions with Lewis reach an uneasy truce, and the Olsen family continues to stew in their own poisonous suspicions. What happened? There's something quietly devastating about watching a character realize they don't fully know themselves. That's exactly where Keira Olsen finds herself in this chapter, and it makes for some of the most compelling reading so far. The chapter opens on a seemingly sweet moment. The elderly Mrs. Horton is insisting that Keira is her daughter-in-law, pointing out how much she resembles the real Mrs. Olsen. Keira tries to brush it off, attributing the similarity to years of subconscious mimicry. After all, when you're thrown out of your family at a young age, you latch onto any model of survival you can find. She learned to be cold and composed by watching the woman who raised her, even if that woman never truly loved her. But then the grandmother drops a bombshell that neither Keira nor we, the readers, saw coming. She knows about Keira's mango allergy. Not just knows about it, but recounts specifics, how Keira's face would break out in red bumps. And here's the kicker. The old woman claims Keira told her this before the wedding, except Keira didn't even know the grandmother at that point in time. The implications are dizzying. Keira's memory isn't faulty, she doesn't have amnesia, she's certain of this. Yet the grandmother knows something she shouldn't. It's the kind of detail that makes you sit up straighter in your reading chair, because someone is hiding something, and we're not sure who. Or how deep it goes. Then Lewis enters, carrying dinner like the cold, dutiful grandson he is, and immediately the atmosphere shifts. When the grandmother's confusion dissipates, Lewis's suspicion takes its place. Keira can feel his analytical gaze boring into her, cataloging her as manipulative again. She's caught in that devastating loop, being judged for things she didn't do, having her intentions questioned when she's genuinely trying to help. So she does what any of us would do. She excuses herself, takes the dog, and walks away. What follows is a tense, quiet confrontation in the hospital corridor. Keira tries to explain herself, but Lewis's response is infuriatingly simple. Oh, he doesn't care if she's lying or telling the truth. His only concern is his grandmother's happiness, and he makes that terrifyingly clear. Keep her happy, and I'll protect you. Hurt her, and I'll destroy you. It's a protection and a prison wrapped in the same sentence. The chapter closes with a scene at the Olsen mansion that serves as the perfect counterweight to the hospital's fractured tenderness. Taylor Olsen is dismissive of Keira's plight. Isla Olsen is sweating bullets over her own web of lies, and the whole family continues to rot from the inside out. Key moments. The grandmother reveals intimate knowledge of Keira's mango allergy, claiming Keira told her before the wedding, a time Keira insists they never met. Keira consciously recognizes she modeled her own cold demeanor after Mrs. Olsen's social behavior, a small but devastating self-realization. Lewis lays down his terms in the hospital corridor. He doesn't care about the truth, only about his grandmother's happiness. Professor Miller accidentally calls Lewis a gangster husband. Providing unexpected comic relief in an otherwise tense narrative, Mrs. Olsen's visible distress at the hospital sparks Isla's panic, revealing just how fragile her position in the family truly is. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing character through quiet moments. Keira isn't loudly defending herself or making grand declarations. She's just tired. She's tired of being misunderstood, tired of proving herself, tired of people assuming the worst. Her decision to walk away from the conversation rather than fight it is a subtle but important shift. Earlier in this story, she might have argued, tried to convince, fought for validation. Now, she recognizes the futility and removes herself. That's growth. That's someone who has learned that not every battle is worth her energy. Lewis, on the other hand, remains frustratingly opaque, but deliberately so. His "I don't know" when asked if he believes Keira is honest in a way that makes my skin crawl. He's not stupid, and he's not blind. He saw the grandmother's confusion. He heard the mango allergy detail, but he chooses not to engage with it because it doesn't serve his purpose. His entire world revolves around one elderly woman, and everyone else is just a variable to be managed. It's terrifying and oddly pitiable at the same time. What kind of life leads a man to care so much about one person and so little about everyone else? And then there's Keira Olsen, whose entire chapter presence is a masterclass in anxiety barely contained. She's sitting at that lunch table, watching her adoptive mother look unwell, watching her father's concern, and her only thought is asterisk, don't let them find out what I did asterisk. She's not worried about Mrs. Olsen's health. She's worried about Mrs. Olsen's usefulness as a shield. It's a brutal but honest look at how survival in toxic families warps people. My thoughts, okay? I need to talk about that mango allergy reveal because it's genuinely haunting me. The grandmother knows something she shouldn't know. Keira has no memory of telling her. The timeline doesn't add up. And yet the old woman isn't lying. She's confused, she's aged, but she's not malicious. So what does this mean? Part of me wonders if we're heading into amnesia territory for Keira, which would be a bold move. The other part of me, the more skeptical reader, wonders if someone else has been visiting the grandmother, pretending to be Keira, feeding her information. That would be a more calculated twist, and honestly fits the political thriller undertones. This novel has been building. But right now, I'm leaning toward something more mysterious, maybe even something involving Keira's real heritage or a connection she doesn't remember making. What I love most about this chapter is how it balances tension and humor. Professor Miller calling Lewis a gangster husband made me laugh out loud. It's such a perfectly timed moment of levity in an otherwise heavy scene, and Lewis's darkening expression is comedy gold. It also serves a deeper purpose. It reminds us that not everyone in Keira's world sees Lewis as an intimidating force. Some people just see a tall, jobless guy who needs to get his priorities straight. That perspective is refreshing. I also appreciate the parallels being drawn between Keira's situation and Keira's. Both women are living in fear of being exposed. Both are performing roles to survive. Both are trapped by decisions made by people more powerful than them. The difference is that Keira is trying to break free, while Keira is doubling down on her lies. It's not hard to guess which path leads to a happier ending. Rating *******4. 8.5 almost flawless. The grandmother's revelation adds a compelling mystery, the character interactions feel authentic, and the pacing is tight. Points deducted only for leaving me desperately wanting more immediate answers, which is really a compliment to the writing. What happens next? I have a sinking feeling the mango allergy isn't the only thing the grandmother remembers but hasn't fully processed yet. Next chapter might see Keira digging deeper into the old woman's memories, trying to piece together why she knows these details. Meanwhile, Keira is spiraling. Taylor's phone call from Mr. Davis couldn't have come at a worse time for her. I suspect that call is going to unravel her story, and the Olsen family dinner is about to get a lot more interesting. On the Lewis-Keira front, I'm bracing for more push-pull. He's made it clear he'll protect her conditionally, but she's not the type to accept conditional care. Something's going to snap soon. Final verdict: this chapter is a quiet powerhouse. It doesn't rely on action or melodrama to keep you engaged. Instead, it uses small revelations, loaded silences, and character-driven tension to build a story that feels alive. The mango allergy mystery is the kind of thread that makes you want to binge-read the next 10 chapters immediately, and the emotional complexity of Keira and Lewis's dynamic continues to deepen. If this novel maintains this level of craft, we're in for something truly special. Chapter 27. The truth that changes everything when a simple phone call exposes a deadly lie. The Olsen family's carefully constructed facade begins to crumble, and one mother's quiet determination sets the stage for a reunion that could rewrite the family's entire history. What happened? This chapter opens with a bombshell that completely recontextualizes everything we thought we knew. Tom's phone call to Taylor Olsen exposes Keira's vicious lie. She had been claiming that Mr. Horton wanted to make Keira disappear from Oceanian, but when Tom confronts her, it becomes painfully clear that this was all Keira's fabrication. The look on Taylor's face as he realizes his precious daughter has been manipulating him is worth its weight in gold. What follows is a masterclass in family dysfunction. Keira breaks down crying, offering weak justifications about fearing Keira would ruin her marriage prospects. But Taylor's anger quickly dissolves when she reminds him that Keira is also his daughter. In a move that reveals his true character, Taylor immediately backpedals and reassures Isla that she's his only real daughter. A declaration that makes Mrs. Olsen visibly uncomfortable, and Poppy, Keira's biological mother who's been working as a housemaid, seethe with resentment. But here's where it gets truly juicy. Poppy's internal monologue drops a revelation that completely upends the family tree. She switched the babies years ago. The beloved Isla, the daughter Taylor has cherished and spoiled, is actually Poppy's biological child. Meanwhile, Keira, the daughter he's rejected and treated as worthless, is the legitimate daughter of Taylor and Jody. The irony is devastating. Mrs. Olsen emerges as the quiet hero of this chapter, insisting that Isla must apologize to Keira for her lies. She even arranges a meeting with Dr. South for the next day, which reignites Isla's ambition after learning she lost 2% of her Horton Group shares. Meanwhile, Keira is nervously preparing to see Mrs. Olsen for the first time in 10 years, completely unaware of the storm brewing around her. The chapter closes with two parallel threads: Lewis inexplicably offering to help Keira contact the elusive Dr. South, and Mrs. Olsen arriving at a restaurant with Isla and Jake, revealing that Dr. South is already waiting, setting up what promises to be an explosive confrontation. Key moments. Tom's phone call exposes Isla's lie about Mr. Horton wanting to make Keira disappear, catching Taylor completely off guard. Poppy's internal revelation about switching Isla and Keira at birth, revealing the ultimate irony of Taylor's favoritism. Mrs. Olsen's quiet but firm insistence that Isla must apologize to Keira, showing her moral backbone. Keira's anxiety about reuniting with Mrs. Olsen after 10 years, humanizing her vulnerability. Lewis ordering Tom to help contact Dr. South for Keira, hinting at growing interest. Character development. This chapter is a turning point for nearly every character. But the most fascinating evolution belongs to Mrs. Olsen. For most of the story, she's been portrayed as a passive, sickly figure who's been manipulated by Isla and sidelined by her husband's blatant favoritism. But here, she shows genuine steel. When she tells Isla that Keira never lies, it's not just a passing comment, it's a quiet indictment of everything Isla represents. Her decision to force an apology and arrange the meeting with Dr. South demonstrates that she's been paying attention, that she sees through the family's games, and that she's finally ready to act. She may be physically weak, but there's a moral clarity. In her actions, that makes her instantly compelling. Isla's character continues to reveal layers of calculated desperation. Her tears feel manufactured, her apologies carefully timed to manipulate her father's sympathies. What's terrifying about Isla isn't that she's purely evil, it's that she genuinely believes she's justified. She sees Keira as a threat to her happiness, and in her mind, eliminating that threat is simply self-preservation. The loss of 2% of her Horton Group shares has sent her into a panic, and her eagerness to prove her worth through the Dr. South connection shows how transactional her view of relationships truly is. She doesn't want Dr. South's mentorship. She wants his name as a bargaining chip. Keira remains an intriguing mystery. Her refusal to accept Lewis's offer of prestigious professors shows either genuine humility or hidden pride, or perhaps both. The way she looks at Tom, as if she was looking at a fool, when he suggests she might not meet Dr. South's standards, is a small but telling moment. There's clearly more to Keira than anyone in this family realizes, and her nervousness about meeting Mrs. Olsen suggests a deep-seated longing for maternal acceptance that she's never allowed herself to fully acknowledge. My thoughts. I have to admit, this chapter hit me hard. The baby swap reveal is the kind of dramatic twist that could easily feel cheap in lesser hands, but the author handles it with surprising restraint. Instead of having Poppy monologue about her master plan, we get a few brief, bitter paragraphs that let the weight of the revelation sink in. The cruelty of it is almost unbearable. Taylor has spent years pouring his love and resources into a child who isn't biologically his, while actively rejecting the daughter who shares his blood. Every time he's dismissed Keira as Poppy's daughter, every time he's favored Isla over her, he's been celebrating Poppy's victory without even knowing it. The tragedy is Shakespearean in scope. What I love most about this chapter is how it reframes the entire family dynamic. Poppy, who seemed like a pathetic figure relegated to servitude, is actually the puppet master who's been pulling strings for decades. Her smirk at the end of her internal monologue is genuinely chilling. She's not sorry for what she did, she's proud of it. She sees Isla thriving as vindication and Keira suffering as justice. The question is, will this secret eventually come out, and if so, what will it do to everyone involved? The tension between Mrs. Olsen and Taylor is also beautifully rendered. When Mrs. Olsen pushes for an apology to Keira, Taylor's immediate response is to dismiss the idea because Keira is Poppy's daughter. He's so blinded by his resentment that he can't see the moral truth right in front of him. Mrs. Olsen, for all her physical frailty, is the only one in this family with a functioning moral compass. Her line about Keira never lying is devastating in its simplicity. It's the quietest indictment of Isla's entire character. Lewis's growing interest in Keira remains one of the story's most intriguing subplots. Ordering Tom to contact Dr. South for her is a significant move from a man who seems to operate with cold calculation. Is he genuinely trying to help her, or is there something else driving him? The ambiguity keeps me turning pages. #rating ********4. 8.5 The baby swap reveal elevates this from a competent family drama into something genuinely compelling. Half. A star deducted only because I desperately want more of Keira's perspective. She remains slightly too passive in her own story. What happens next? The meeting with Dr. South is clearly going to be explosive, especially since Keira seems to have a hidden connection to him that nobody suspects. The way she dismissed Tom's suggestion that she wouldn't meet Dr. South's standards feels like foreshadowing that she's either already known to him or possesses qualifications far beyond what anyone realizes. I'm betting on the latter. The baby swap secret can't stay hidden forever. Poppy's internal smugness is going to slip eventually, especially if Isla continues to self-destruct under pressure. And Mrs. Olsen is clearly becoming more observant and less willing to accept the family's toxic dynamics. She may be the one to uncover the truth. Lewis's involvement is also growing more intriguing. He's gone from dismissive to actively helpful with Keira, and in a story filled with manipulative characters, his motives remain the most opaque. Is this genuine attraction, strategic maneuvering, or something else entirely? Final verdict. This is the chapter where the story stops being a simple family drama and transforms into a layered, emotionally gutting exploration of how secrets and favoritism poison relationships across generations. The baby swap twist is brilliantly deployed, not as a gimmick, but as a devastating lens through which to view every past interaction. Mrs. Olsen's emergence as a force for justice, Poppy's hidden malevolence, Isla's crumbling facade, and Keira's quiet resilience all come together in a chapter that manages to advance multiple plot threads while deepening our understanding of every character. If the rest of the novel maintains this level of emotional complexity and narrative craft, we're in for something truly special. Chapter 28. The tea that tells the truth. Sometimes the most explosive confrontations happen in the quietest settings. Chapter 28 serves up a masterclass in dramatic irony and simmering family tension, all set against the unlikely backdrop of a business dinner where the most powerful person in the room isn't who anyone expects. What happened? Jake, Isla, and Mrs. Olsen arrive at the restaurant for their highly anticipated meeting with the mysterious Dr. South, the prestigious researcher who could revolutionize the Horton Group's new energy division. While Jake scans the room nervously, Isla orchestrates a moment alone with Mrs. Olsen, claiming her bra came undone, a transparent excuse that lets her whisper her manipulative counsel to her mother-in-law-to-be. Jake, desperate to make a good impression, smooths his clothes and pushes open the private room door. Instead of some distinguished older scientist, he finds a woman pouring tea with her back to him. When she turns around, Jake's world flips upside down. It's Keira, his ex-wife, the woman he divorced just days ago. The tension escalates rapidly when Mrs. Olsen and Isla return. Mrs. Olsen's eyes well up at seeing Keira for the first time in 10 years, a genuine emotional reunion that speaks volumes. But Isla's face darkens immediately, and she begins her calculated campaign to humiliate Keira, suggesting she's just a waitress and should be tipped and dismissed. Jake, still stinging from their divorce, piles on, accusing Keira of being unfit to meet Dr. South. Then comes the pivotal moment. Isla, desperate to either injure Keira or frame her for an accident, deliberately drops a cup of scalding tea near Keira. But Keira, having anticipated the move, sidesteps with dancer-like precision, causing the tea to splash back onto Isla's own blouse. The betrayal is exposed, but Isla immediately plays the victim, and Jake takes the bait, demanding Keira be thrown out. Mrs. Olsen, caught between her daughter's and her son-in-law's anger, reluctantly agrees to let Keira leave, but promises to introduce her to Dr. South another time. That's when Keira drops the bombshell. There's no need. Dr. South is already here. Key moments, Jake enters the private room expecting Dr. South and finds Keira pouring tea, shattering his expectations and his composure misses. Olsen's tear-filled reunion with Keira after a decade, revealing a depth of maternal affection Keira never knew existed. Isla's fake apology and calculated attempt to scald Keira with hot tea backfires spectacularly when Keira deflects the attack. Jake immediately sides with Isla's theatrical pain, demanding Keira be fired and escorted out. Keira's stunning final revelation that she herself is Dr. South, delivered with calm, devastating precision. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in irony and revelation. Keira has been playing a long game, and we finally see the payoff. Throughout the chapter, she remains unnervingly composed, even when Isla is actively trying to burn her, even when Jake is shouting at her, even when she could have revealed her identity at any moment. She lets them dig their own graves. This isn't just patience. It's a quiet, devastating power. The girl who fled the Olsen family 10 years ago, who spent years being belittled and dismissed, has become someone who doesn't need to announce her worth. She lets her presence do the talking. Mrs. Olsen emerges as a more sympathetic figure than I expected. Her joy at seeing Keira, her grief at the lost decade, and her immediate desire to help her career contrast sharply with Taylor's coldness and Poppy's disdain. But she's also weak-willed. She lets Isla and Jake steamroll her, agreeing to send Keira away even when she clearly wants her to stay. She's a woman torn between genuine love and the political realities of her family. Jake continues to be spectacularly wrong about absolutely everything. He walks into that room with all the confidence of a man who thinks he's finally found his ticket to corporate glory, only to be confronted with the woman he discarded. His immediate assumption that Keira is a waitress, his willingness to believe Isla's theatrical pain over Keira's quiet dignity, and his arrogance in trying to have her thrown out, it's breathtaking in its blindness. He has no idea he just tried to fire the most valuable asset his company could ever have. My thoughts okay, I need to take a moment. That final line, Dr. South is already here, sent actual chills down my spine. The author has been building this reveal with surgical precision. And the payoff is exquisite. Keira has been working at the Horton Group all along, biding her time, letting everyone underestimate her, and now we understand why. She never needed Jake's respect or Isla's approval. She had the one thing they desperately want. The hot tea scene is brilliant on multiple levels. On the surface, it's a classic catfight moment, but the symbolism runs deeper. Isla tries to burn Keira, to mark her, to ruin her, and the fire turns back on the arsonist. It's not just poetic justice. It's a perfect metaphor for Keira's entire character arc. She doesn't fight dirty because she doesn't need to. She simply steps aside and lets her enemies destroy themselves. I also love the restraint in Mrs. Olsen's and Keira's reunion. Neither woman breaks down in dramatic sobs. Instead, there's a quiet, almost fragile tenderness. Mrs. Olsen's tears and her insistence on asking about Keira's life, her regret over not being able to invite Keira's husband to the family home, it's heartbreaking in its simplicity. This is a woman who has clearly thought about Keira every day for 10 years, who blames herself for the rift, and who is now caught between two daughters who despise each other. The writing here is sharp and economical. Every line serves multiple purposes, advancing the plot, deepening character, or raising stakes. The pacing of the reveal is masterful. We feel Jake's dawning horror, Isla's panic, and Mrs. Olsen's confusion, all while Keira remains a calm epicenter of power. Rating ******4. 8.5 What happens next? Oh, the fallout is going to be glorious. I'm dying to see Jake's face when he realizes he just insulted and tried to fire the woman who could save his career. Will he grovel? Will he try to pretend he knew all along? More importantly, will Keira even agree to work with him now? Isla is in deep trouble. Her scheme has completely backfired, and she's exposed as a jealous, violent schemer in front of both Jake and Mrs. Olsen. But will she double down with more lies, or will this finally crack her facade? The bigger question is what Keira wants. Is she here for revenge, to prove herself? To help Mrs. Olsen? The fact that she's been keeping her identity secret suggests she has a larger plan in motion. I suspect we're about to see a corporate power play that will leave everyone scrambling. Final verdict: this chapter is the turning point we've been waiting for. After weeks of watching Keira be underestimated and dismissed, the mask finally comes off, and the reveal is spectacular. The writing balances emotional depth with sharp plotting, creating a scene that is both cathartic and compelling. The hot tea incident, the family reunion, and the final bombshell all work together to create a chapter that will leave readers desperate for the next installment. This is where the game changes, and I am here for every single move Keira is about to make. Chapter 29, Mother and Daughter. The weight of unspoken love of family crisis erupts at the dinner table, leaving Keira isolated and blamed, but an unexpected protector steps in, and a mysterious photograph threatens to unravel everything Keira thought she knew. What happened? The chapter opens with a gut-wrenching scene that pivots from tense family dynamics to full-blown medical emergency. Mrs. Olsen, already fragile and agitated, collapses at the dining table after Keira hands her a cup of tea. The teacup slips, and in that moment, Keira becomes the villain. Isla shoves her away, Jake accuses her of causing harm. With venom dripping from every word, and Keira is left standing alone as the ambulance whisks Mrs. Olsen away. She follows in a taxi like a ghost, trailing a funeral procession, desperate to help, but forbidden from getting close. What makes this sequence so compelling is the quiet contrast between Keira's genuine concern and the family's hostile dismissal. Lewis, observing from his suite window, spots the commotion below and notices something everyone else misses. While Isla performs distress, Keira is genuinely consumed by worry. It's a masterclass in showing rather than telling. Lewis intervenes when he has no reason to, securing a VIP. Ward through his influence and later physically steps between Keira and her father Taylor's raised hand. That slap never lands. Instead, Lewis becomes her shield, standing like a deity in that sterile hospital corridor. The chapter closes with a revelation that lands like a bomb. The old lady, Lewis's grandmother, shows Keira a photograph Keira supposedly sent her. It's a picture of Mrs. Olsen with her asterisk. Keira is stunned. The implication: either Keira sent this and doesn't remember, or someone else has been impersonating her. Either way, the ground beneath this story has just shifted. Key moments: Mrs. Olsen collapses at dinner. After Keira hands her tea, triggering accusations from the entire family, Lewis spots Keira from his window, looking like an abandoned little fox, and decides to intervene. Lewis arranges a VIP ward for Mrs. Olsen through his influence, taking credit away from Jake. Taylor attempts to slap Keira in the hospital corridor, but Lewis blocks the strike. The old lady reveals a photograph Keira supposedly sent, showing Keira and Mrs. Olsen together, leaving Keira completely baffled. Character development: Keira emerges as this chapter's heart, a girl carrying invisible wounds. She doesn't fight back when Isla shoves her. She doesn't defend herself when Jake calls her an illegitimate daughter. She doesn't dodge her father's slap. Why? Because she genuinely believes she might deserve it. That line, "maybe she really shouldn't have appeared in front of Mrs. Olsen," speaks volumes about her internalized guilt. Keira isn't just an outsider in this family, she's a girl who's learned to accept rejection as her natural place in the world. Her hesitation, her silence, her refusal to push open that hospital door. It's all heartbreaking evidence of someone who's been told, "You don't belong here," so many times she started believing it. Lewis, on the other hand, reveals unexpected depth. He's been positioned as the cold, observant billionaire, but here he acts without calculation. He chooses Keira. He tells Taylor that his grandmother likes her, which is a convenient excuse, but we know better. Lewis watched Isla's performative anxiety and recognized Keira's quiet, genuine worry. He saw a lost girl and decided to stand in front of her. That gesture, holding the sky for her, as the text beautifully puts it, is transformative. This isn't about business or obligation. This is personal. My thoughts this chapter wrecked me. There's something profoundly painful about watching a good person accept mistreatment because they've been conditioned to believe they deserve it. Keira doesn't argue. She doesn't explain. She simply absorbs the blows, emotional, verbal, and physical, and keeps following that ambulance. The author handles this with surgical precision, never over-explaining Keira's pain. We feel it in what she doesn't say, in the tears she suppresses, in the way she sits on that bench like a punished child waiting for permission to exist. And then there's Lewis. I'm not usually sold on the cold male lead melts for the heroine trope, but this works because Lewis earns it. He doesn't save Keira because he's attracted to her, though. That's coming. He saves her because he sees her, and in this family, no one else does. The moment where he blocks Taylor's slap is electric. It's not about romance yet. It's about basic human decency in a world that's denied Keira any. That photograph reveal is the chapter's true cliffhanger. Who sent that photo to the old lady? If it wasn't Keira, someone has been building a bridge between these families in the shadows. And that someone might know more about Keira's connection to Mrs. Olsen than Keira herself does. The possibilities are deliciously unsettling. Rating ****4. 8.5 what? Happens next. That photograph is going to explode this story. Keira didn't send it, so who did? My gut says someone connected to Lewis's grandmother, who seems far too invested in Keira to be a casual observer. Is Mrs. Olsen hiding a truth about Keira's parentage? The way Keira stared at her pale face, the way she feels guilty for appearing in front of her. There's history here we haven't uncovered. Meanwhile, Lewis's protection of Keira will likely draw more attention from his family, and Jake is going to stew in humiliation once he realizes Lewis secured that ward, not him. Expect Isla to weaponize Mrs. Olsen's fragile health to drive Keira further away. But that photograph suggests the connection between Keira and Mrs. Olsen runs deeper than anyone wants to admit. Final verdict this chapter is a masterclass in emotional restraint and narrative tension. Every glance, every hesitation, every unspoken word carries weight. Keira's silent suffering grounds the story in painful reality, while Lewis's quiet intervention offers the first ray of hope. That closing photograph revelation is the kind of twist that makes you want to immediately flip to the next chapter. At 4.8 stars, this is near-perfect storytelling, tight, visceral, and deeply human. Chapter 18, The Photograph and the Pill, a glimmer of hope in a sea of despair. A doctored photo, a secret job, and a discarded bottle of medicine become the unlikely threads that weave together a chapter of quiet desperation, buried longing, and a fragile, perhaps revolutionary act of trust. What happened? This chapter opens with a puzzle that tugs at Keira's heartstrings and her suspicion. Old Mrs. Horton shows her a photograph of Keira and Mrs. Olsen at the seaside, both in white chiffon, beaming like a real mother and daughter. But Keira knows it's a lie. She never owned such a dress, and she left the Olsen family years ago. Zooming in, she spots the amateurish Photoshop. Stock faces swapped onto strangers. When she presses the old woman for details on how she received the photo, old Mrs. Horton can only shake her head, frustrating Keira with her fleeting clarity and lingering confusion. Yet the old woman's insistence that Mrs. Olsen is Keira's mother cuts deep. Keira's silent, bitter thought reveals a wound she keeps hidden. She wishes it were true. Meanwhile, Lewis and Tom piece together Keira's movements. She was spotted at a private restaurant, working another job, and ran into the Olsen family. Tom assumes it's about money or fear of being fired from Horton Group, but Lewis's sharp instincts sense something deeper. The Olsens were there to meet Dr. South, a figure whose absence seems to cast a long shadow over the family's ambitions. In the hospital, Mrs. Olsen recovers enough to manage her family's scheming. She sends Jake home, rearranges her meeting with Dr. South, and tries to soothe the waters, but the subtext is clear. Jake's presence was never about her health, but about securing a name for his own career. Keira, lurking in the corridor, avoids a confrontation with Isla to spare her stepmother more distress. When Keira finally enters the ward, Taylor's hostility is immediate, but Mrs. Olsen's gentle voice cuts through his anger. She holds Keira's warm hand, reassures her, and invites her home more often. She even asks to meet Keira's husband, defending the man she's never met against the little punk label. Keira, overwhelmed by this rare kindness, nearly breaks down. Before leaving, she slips Mrs. Olsen a bottle of white pills, a cough suppressant she asks someone to buy. After she's gone, Taylor scoffs and tosses the bottle into the trash, promising to find Nora's experimental drug instead. But later that night, Mrs. Olsen lies awake, tormented by her chronic neurogenic cough, the despair of an incurable disease pressing down on her. Suicidal thoughts creep in, and then, in a moment of fragile desperation, her eyes fall on the discarded bottle. She picks it up. She takes a pill. Key moments, Keira discovers the photoshopped photograph of herself and Mrs. Olsen, exposing a web of deception and heartfelt longing. Lewis's suspicion about Keira's side job deepens, hinting at a larger game involving Dr. South. Mrs. Olsen defends Keira against Taylor's hostility, offering the first genuine, unconditional kindness Keira has received. Keira leaves Mrs. Olsen with an unlabeled bottle of cough suppressant, an act of care that is immediately dismissed. In the dead of night, Mrs. Olsen retrieves the discarded bottle and takes a pill, trusting a stranger's medicine over her family's neglect. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in showing character through restraint. Keira's emotional armor is so thick we almost miss the cracks, but they're there. When old Mrs. Horton insists that Mrs. Olsen is her mother, Keira's internal response is devastating. If Keira could, she really wished Mrs. Olsen was her mother. She doesn't say it aloud. She lowers her eyes to hide the bitterness. This is a woman who has learned to survive by not needing anyone, but the ache for maternal love is a wound that hasn't healed. Her decision to leave the medicine, despite knowing it might be met with suspicion, reveals a stubborn, quiet hope. She does what she can, even when it's likely to be scorned. Mrs. Olsen's character emerges with surprising depth. She is physically frail, but her emotional intelligence is sharp. She deflects Taylor's anger with practiced grace, and her defense of Keira's choice in a husband, believing that Keira has good taste and good judgment, is a subtle act of rebellion against the family's judgmental culture. But her vulnerability is palpable. The narrative lets us into her darkest moments, the insomnia, the suicidal ideation, the sense of fading away. When she picks up that bottle, it's not just about a cough. It's about choosing to trust someone who has shown her kindness, even when the world tells her not to. Taylor, by contrast, embodies the arrogance of assumed authority. His rejection of Keira's gift is less about medical efficacy and more about control. He doesn't want a cure from an outsider. He wants a trophy, Nora's drug, a name he can wield. His care for his wife is real, but it's wrapped in ego and power games. My thoughts. This chapter snuck up on me. It starts with a relatively mundane mystery, a fake photograph, a confused old woman, and then quietly builds toward something much more emotionally devastating. The author's decision to linger on Mrs. Olsen's late-night suffering is brilliant. We don't just hear that she's sick. We feel the weight of her isolation, the way she suppresses her cough so as not to wake her husband, the creeping despair of a chronic condition that steals sleep and hope. When she reaches into that trash can, I held my breath. It's a moment of profound vulnerability. The tension here is subtle but relentless. Every interaction carries subtext. Keira's silence in the corridor, Lewis's unspoken theories, the way Mrs. Olsen's kindness feels like a lifeline thrown into a cold ocean. It all works because the writing trusts the reader to connect the dots. The chapter doesn't explain why Keira has that medicine or what's really in it. It makes us wait. And that patience pays off. What moved me most is the parallel between Keira and Mrs. Olsen. Both are isolated, both are dismissed by the men around them, and both are desperately searching for someone who sees them. Keira's gift is a quiet rebellion. Mrs. Olsen's acceptance of it is an act of faith. In a novel full of scheming families and power plays, this small, fragile exchange between two women feels like the most honest thing in the story. Rating *******4. 8.5 What happens next? I have a strong suspicion that Keira's medicine is not what it appears to be. She said she asked someone to buy it, but knowing this world and knowing her hidden depths, that bottle could be part of a larger plan. Is it actually Dr. South's cure? Did Keira secure it herself? The timeline with her side job and the aborted meeting is too coincidental. Meanwhile, Mrs. Olsen's decision to take the pill is a ticking time bomb. Whether it works or causes unexpected consequences will likely set off a chain reaction. Taylor's fury when he finds out will be explosive, and the Olsen family's investigation into Keira will intensify. Lewis, too, is circling closer. His suspicion about Dr. South's absence and Keira's involvement suggests he's about to connect dots the family hasn't even considered. I'm also watching Jake's ambition. He needs Dr. South for his career, and the Olsens are all in on this recruitment. If Keira holds the key to that connection, the power dynamics are about to shift dramatically. Final verdict this chapter is a quiet gut punch. It reframes the entire emotional landscape of the novel, moving beyond family politics into something more intimate and raw. The desperate human need for connection and relief. The photograph, the medicine, the kindness of a woman who has never known kindness. These small objects and gestures carry enormous weight. By the final paragraph, when Mrs. Olsen swallows that white pill, the story feels poised on the edge of transformation. Whether it's salvation or catastrophe, I can't look away. Chapter 31. The politics of kindness and the weight of favor. A single night of rest brings clarity, but also complication, as Mrs. Olsen wakes transformed, only to become a chess piece in a family power game that exposes the fragile alliances and harsh truths surrounding everyone in this hospital. What happened? After a desperate, agonizing night of coughing, Mrs. Olsen awakens to something she hasn't experienced in years, genuine, restorative sleep. The room is flooded with sunlight, not hospital fluorescence, and she's disoriented, confused. It's 10 in the morning. She slept 10 hours straight. The realization hits her like a wave. It wasn't the sleeping pills everyone assumes worked. It was the unlabeled bottle of medicine Keira gave her. But she keeps this to herself, quietly resolving to test her theory tonight. The celebration around her, however, isn't about her recovery. It's about what Jake Horton did to secure this VIP ward. Taylor and Aunt South are effusive with praise, and Isla seizes her mother-in-law's gratitude like a business opportunity. She asks Mrs. Olsen to call Dr. South, the mysterious figure who never refuses her, to help Jake stabilize his position at work. Mrs. Olsen hesitates, caught between her principles and her sense of obligation, but eventually agrees. But the message doesn't go to Dr. South. It goes to Keira. Keira, who has been caring for old Mrs. Horton, reads the message with alarm. She fears the experimental drug caused complications. She rushes to the ward, only to find a room full of people laughing, Jake, Poppy, Isla, Taylor, and her presence kills the mood like a cold draft. She tries to leave, but Poppy stops her with venomous words, mocking her efforts to please old Mrs. Horton and suggesting she's nothing more than a plaything. Jake watches, smiling humbly, enjoying the contrast drawn between his helpfulness and Keira's supposed uselessness. And outside the door, unbeknownst to everyone, Lewis Horton has heard everything, and his face has turned to stone. Key moments. Mrs. Olsen wakes after 10 hours of sleep, realizing the unlabeled medicine worked, not the sleeping pills. But she keeps this secret to test it again. Isla manipulates Mrs. Olsen's gratitude, asking her to leverage her relationship with Dr. South to help Jake's career. Mrs. Olsen sends a WhatsApp message to Dr. South, which actually reaches Keira, who panics thinking the drug caused a reaction. Keira arrives at the ward, is treated as an unwelcome intruder, and tries to leave before Poppy publicly humiliates her. Lewis overhears Poppy's cruel taunts from outside the door, and his cold expression signals a brewing confrontation. Character development. Mrs. Olsen's arc in this chapter is quietly powerful. She's not just a sick woman anymore, she's a detective of her own body, a woman reclaiming agency. When she questions the sleeping pill explanation and silently plans her test, we see someone who has been passive for too long finally taking control. But she's also trapped by her own nature. She doesn't like exploiting kindness, yet she's terrified of owing favors. This internal conflict makes her agree to Isla's request even though she knows it's wrong. She's a woman caught between gratitude and integrity, and that tension is deeply human. Keira, meanwhile, endures a different kind of suffering. Her first instinct upon receiving Mrs. Olsen's message is concern, not for herself, but for the woman she helped. She rushes over, expecting a medical emergency, only to walk into a social ambush. Her silence in the face of Poppy's cruelty isn't weakness, it's discipline. She chooses not to disturb Mrs. Olsen's rest by starting a fight, but that restraint comes at a cost. We see her clench her fists, swallow her pride, and become the target of a room full of people who see her as beneath them. It's a masterclass in showing dignity under fire. Lewis's development happens in the margins, but it's electric. He notices Keira's absence when his grandmother returns. He asks where she went. When old Mrs. Horton expresses worry, he stands up without hesitation. And then he hears everything. His stillness, his coldness, the glance he gives Tom, these are the actions of a man whose protective instincts have been triggered. He's not just observing anymore. He's about to act. My thoughts, this chapter is a masterwork of dramatic irony and emotional tension. The author lets us see what the characters don't. Mrs. Olsen knows the medicine worked but can't say so. Keira has no idea she's Dr. South in this context. Lewis is listening to his grandmother's caretaker being humiliated and doesn't yet know how he'll respond. Every character is operating on incomplete information, and that creates a delicious, almost unbearable suspense. What strikes me most is the cruelty of the hospital. Hierarchy. Poppy's words are designed to wound, but they also reveal the brutal social calculus at play. Keira is dismissed as a plaything, someone who does unpleasant chores for affection that will never be returned. Meanwhile, Jake is praised for pulling strings to get a ward, a privilege that came from his family name, not his character. The contrast is sickening, and it's meant to be. The author forces us to sit in that discomfort, to feel Keira's isolation and the sting of her silence. And yet, there's hope in the quiet moments. Mrs. Olsen's private realization about the medicine, Lewis's silent fury. These threads promise reckoning. The author has set up a powder keg, Keira's hidden identity, Mrs. Olsen's secret recovery, and Lewis's growing investment. When this explodes, and it will, the fallout will be spectacular. Rating ****4. 8.5 What happens next? Lewis is going to intervene, and it won't be subtle. The man who heard everything outside the door is not the type to let Poppy's cruelty slide. Expect a confrontation that will expose the power dynamics in the room and possibly reveal Lewis's growing feelings for Keira. Meanwhile, Mrs. Olsen will test the medicine again tonight, and if it works, she'll have to confront what that means. That the daughter she abandoned holds the key to her health. Keira's secret identity as Dr. South is a bomb waiting to detonate, and the moment Isla realizes who she's been mocking will be nothing short of explosive. Final verdict. This chapter earns its place as a turning point. It takes the quiet, internal drama of illness and recovery and expands it into a family power struggle, all while deepening every character's emotional stakes. The writing is taut, the dialogue sharp, and the pacing perfect. By the final sentence, Lewis's cold face and Tom's readiness to act, you feel the ground shift beneath your feet. This is the chapter where the story stops being about survival and starts being about reckoning. And I, for one, cannot wait to see who falls first. Chapter 32, Test the Medicine. When pride cracks and old wounds surface, the comfortable lie of a good night's sleep is about to shatter. This chapter peels back the glossy veneer of family politics and medical miracles, leaving us with a cold, hard truth. The cure was never in the room, it was in the person. What happened? The chapter opens with the kind of awkward silence that only a dinner party full of unspoken resentments can produce. Someone has let the cat out of the bag. The premium hospital ward that Jake supposedly arranged for Mrs. Olsen was actually secured by Keira, through Lewis Horton. Jake stands there like a man caught with his hand in the cookie jar, stammering excuses about making calls and misunderstandings. It's brutal, beautiful, and utterly humiliating. For him, Isla's reaction is even more telling. She feels humiliated, and for the first time she doesn't find Jake aloof. She finds him exposed. Mrs. Olsen, the quiet matriarch, breaks the tension with a diplomatic cough and thanks Tom for Mr. Horton's kindness. But the businessmen in the room aren't fooled. They recognize the implied favoritism toward Keira, and it makes them uneasy. Only Mrs. Olsen is genuinely relieved, knowing old Mrs. Horton cares for Keira, lets her breathe easier, even if she can't publicly show too much closeness to her own daughter. Poppy, predictably, explodes. She calls Keira a little brat for having a patron, only to be shut down by Taylor, who orders her out. It's a small victory, but it tastes bitter. Later, Keira checks on Mrs. Olsen, who claims she slept well for the first time in years. But there's a tell. Her hand grips a small medicine bottle hidden under the blanket. Keira doesn't press. She simply nods and leaves. Outside, Louis is waiting, leaning against the hallway wall like a dark prince in a suit. He claims his grandmother insisted he come check on her, but his voice, cold as it is, warms her. She smiles sincerely. He's momentarily dazzled. Then Jake and Isla emerge, and the tension spikes again. Jake, jealous of the easy chemistry between Keira and Louis, tries to needle her by mentioning her husband. Keira smirks and says he probably doesn't mind. Louis, smooth as ever, invites her to come back to the ward. Coming back, she repeats. It's a phrase she hasn't heard in a long time. She has no home. But maybe, just maybe, this isn't true anymore. The chapter closes with a domestic counterpoint. Taylor, dismissive and prideful, orders Aunt South to throw away Keira's medicine, convinced Jake's sleeping pill is the real savior. But just as he finishes his rant, a suppressed, severe coughing sound erupts from the ward. Key moments, the public exposure that Jake didn't arrange the ward, humiliating him in front of everyone. Poppy's outburst and Taylor's cold dismissal of her, revealing family fractures. Louis waiting for Keira in the hallway, the quiet, charged moment where she says, "Thank you," and he's momentarily stunned by her smile. Jake's pointed question about Keira's husband and her ambiguous, smirk-laden reply. Taylor's arrogant dismissal of Keira's medicine. Immediately followed by Mrs. Olsen's coughing fit, a devastating narrative punch. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in exposing what's beneath the surface. Jake, who has coasted on his perceived authority and connections, is dismantled in public. He's not just embarrassed, he's shown to be a man who depends on borrowed power. When the truth comes out, he doesn't fight, he stutters. His jealousy toward Louis is raw and desperate, and for the first time, we see him not as a rival, but as a man clinging to an illusion. When he asks Keira about her husband, he's not trying to protect her, he's trying to wound her or, failing that, to provoke Louis. It's a petty move from a man who senses he's losing control. Keira, meanwhile, continues to operate with quiet precision. She doesn't gloat about the ward. She doesn't defend herself when Taylor scoffs at her medicine. She just observes, smiles, and moves forward. Her line, "He probably doesn't mind," is a masterpiece of controlled ambiguity. She's playing a long game, and she knows it. The moment where she pauses on coming back is heartbreakingly vulnerable. She's a woman who has built walls so high that kindness from the Horton family feels foreign, but she lets herself believe it just for a second. Louis is a study in restrained power. He doesn't need to prove anything. His presence alone unsettles Jake. His words are sparse, but each one lands like a stone in still water. "I don't think I need to report my whereabouts to you." That one sentence projects more authority than Jake's entire parade of phone calls. And yet, when he looks at Keira, the ice cracks. That moment of being dazzled is humanizing. He's not just the untouchable billionaire, he's a man caught off guard by a woman's sincerity. And then there's Taylor. His pride is his poison. He throws away Keira's medicine not because it's dangerous, but because accepting it would mean admitting he was wrong about her. His refusal to see the truth is so absolute that it becomes tragic. The cough at the end is the sound of his arrogance colliding with reality. My thoughts. This chapter hit me harder than I expected. The pacing is surgical, each scene cuts deeper, from public humiliation to private hope to impending disaster. The author knows exactly when to let dialogue breathe and when to drop a hammer. That final cough isn't just a cliffhanger, it's a verdict. What I love most is the layered irony. Everyone is fighting over who gets credit for the cure, while the patient herself is quietly testing the actual medicine, and it seems to be working. Mrs. Olsen is the silent observer, the one who knows her own body better than any of them. She hid that bottle under the blanket like a secret treasure. And Taylor, in his blindness, is about to throw away the one thing that might actually save her. The relationship dynamics are electric. Louis and Keira share almost nothing verbally, but their body language and the space between them speak volumes. When Jake looks at them and sees a matchmate in heaven, he's right. It's not about looks or status, it's about two people who move through the world with the same quiet, unshakable certainty. They don't need to perform. The only thing that feels slightly off is how quickly the other businessmen catch on to old Mrs. Horton's favoritism. It works for the plot, but it feels a little too neat. Still, it serves its purpose. It raises the stakes and isolates Keira further, making her eventual triumph sweeter. Rating *******4. 85 What happens next? That cough is a siren. My gut says Mrs. Olsen's seemingly good night wasn't caused by Jake's pill but by Keira. Taylor's about to realize he threw away the real medicine. The fallout? A frantic search for the bottle, an emergency call too. Keira and Taylor being forced to swallow his pride and beg. Meanwhile, Jake's humiliation is going to fester. He's not the type to let this slide. I suspect he'll try something reckless to win back his standing, maybe targeting Lewis's business or digging into Keira's past. And Isla, she's watching, scheming. The moment Keira's guard drops, she'll strike. Final verdict. This chapter is a quiet masterpiece of family tension, social politics, and emotional restraint. It takes what could be a simple hospital scene and turns it into a battlefield of egos, secrets, and fragile hopes. The writing is tight, the dialogue is sharp, and the character work is profound. By the end, you're not just wondering what happens next, you're emotionally invested in every single person in that room, flaws and all. Chapter 33. The doctor in the room. The truth finally hits the fan, and it's not what anyone expected. Keira's medicine works exactly as intended, Isla's schemes backfire spectacularly, and a single phone call threatens to unravel everything. What happened? This chapter opens with a tense medical crisis that quickly becomes a proving ground for loyalties and for hidden expertise. Mrs. Olsen's cough flares up badly in the night, and the whole family rushes to her bedside. Taylor, ever the skeptic, immediately assumes the worst about Keira's mysterious medicine. Isla, sensing an opportunity to sabotage, does her level best to prevent her mother from taking it, suggesting the cough might have been asterisk caused by the very remedy meant to help. Classic Isla, weaponizing concern to serve her own agenda. But Mrs. Olsen, bless her stubborn heart, is having none of it. She grabs the medicine, downs it, and within moments her coughing stops cold. The woman takes a breath, a real, full breath, and declares with quiet authority that Keira's medicine worked. The silence that follows must have been deafening. The scene then cuts to the VIP ward, where we get a softer, more intimate moment between Keira, Lewis, and old Mrs. Horton. The grandmother's memory is slipping. She remembers pasta for lunch when they actually had rice, and Lewis's eyes betray a worry his smile can't hide. Keira, in her quiet way, proves the old woman's mind is sharper than it seems. Mrs. Horton remembers Lewis's tie colors, his cufflinks, the small details she genuinely cares about. And then the grandmother drops a bombshell in her teasing. Keira knows exactly what Lewis wears every day. She's been paying attention. Keira panics internally, wanting to explain she just has a photographic memory, but Lewis doesn't react. Or does he? There's a telling detail about his earlobes turning red, which Keira misses entirely. Then the mood shifts again. Keira steps out for air and runs straight into her gambling addict uncle, Finley Hill. The man is sweaty, desperate, and reeking of decay. He's here for money, of course, promising a secret in exchange for cash. Keira plays along, but her disgust is palpable. And then the phone rings. It's Mrs. Olsen's phone. Isla answers, having grown desperate because Dr. South hasn't replied to messages all day. She's been using this doctor connection to weasel her way into the Horton family's good graces. She dials Dr. South's number. Keira picks up. Hello, Mrs. Olsen, what can I do for you? And Isla freezes, because she knows that voice. Keira, key moments, Mrs. Olsen's violent coughing fit tests Keira's medicine under the family's watchful eyes. Isla tries to block the medicine, claiming it might have caused the coughing. The medicine works immediately, proving Keira right and humiliating Taylor, and Isla misses. Horton's memory lapse reveals her worsening Alzheimer's. But Keira cleverly shows her mind is still sharp on what matters. Finley Hill, Keira's gambling uncle, reappears to extort money with promises of a secret Isla calls Dr. South. Only 4. Keira to answer the phone. Character development. This chapter does something quietly brilliant. It strips away everyone's illusions one by one. Taylor has spent this whole time clinging to his prejudice against Keira, seeing her only as Poppy's daughter, tainted by association, incapable of good. When Mrs. Olsen's cough stops cold after taking Keira's medicine, Taylor doesn't relent. Instead, he credits Mr. Horton. The man will not give Keira an inch. It's not stubbornness anymore, it's willful blindness. He'd rather believe a wealthy stranger helped than admit Keira might have skills he overlooked. That's not just pride. That's a wound. Isla, meanwhile, reveals herself as the kind of schemer who's smart enough to spot a threat but not smart enough to handle one gracefully. She knows the medicine will work. That's exactly why she tries to stop her mother from taking it. She's not worried about side effects. She's worried about Keira gaining credibility. That moment when she looks at Taylor and watches him fall for her manipulation is deeply uncomfortable. She's playing her father like a fiddle and she enjoys it. And Keira? Oh, Keira, she's becoming the most fascinating character in this story. She doesn't grandstand. She doesn't defend herself. She lets the medicine speak for itself. She deflects Mrs. Horton's teasing with silence. She handles her uncle with cold, dismissive competence. And now, apparently, she is Dr. South, the very specialist Isla has been using to climb the social ladder. The question is, has Keira been playing a long game this whole time, or is she just someone who doesn't bother explaining herself because she's too busy getting things done? My thoughts. This chapter hit me right in the chest. The pacing is masterful. We go from a medical crisis to a tender family moment to a predatory relative to a twist reveal in the span of a few pages, and it never feels rushed. Every scene matters. I love how the author uses physical details to tell emotional truths. Mrs. Olsen taking that first clean breath after the coughing fit, that's not just a symptom relieved. That's a woman reclaiming her agency. Taylor's refusal to acknowledge Keira's role, even after witnessing the results, that's not about medicine. That's about a man who would rather be wrong about a person than admit he was wrong about himself. And that ending. The phone call reveal is perfect because it's not dramatic in the way you'd expect. No orchestral swells, no villain monologue. Just Keira's calm voice on the other end of the line, and Isla's world crumbling in a single syllable. Keira? The chapter banks all the tension and releases it in that one quiet moment. The grandmother storyline also deserves more attention than I've given it so far. The way Keira handles Mrs. Horton's memory loss, not by correcting her, but by showing how her mind still works on what she loves, is genuinely moving. Keira understands that the old woman isn't broken, she's just different now. That's empathy without sentimentality, and it's rare in fiction. The only thing pulling me out is Finley. He feels a bit like a plot device at this point, the convenient villain who shows up waving money and secrets. I'm hoping he becomes more than that, because right now he's the weakest link in an otherwise excellent chapter. Rating ****4. 8.5 What happens next? Isla knows. The jig is up. Does she confront Keira directly, or does she try to spin this somehow? My money is on spin. Isla's too invested in her Horton family scheme to let this revelation stop her. She might try to get to Keira first, make a deal, or more likely, set another trap. Meanwhile, Finley's secret is dangling out there like bait. Is it about Poppy? About Keira's past? About why the Olsens treat her the way they do? Something tells me it's not going to be pretty. And Louis, that red earlobe detail. He heard what his grandmother said about Keira remembering his clothes. He's not as indifferent as he pretends. With the Dr. South reveal about to explode, I suspect Louis will be forced to see Keira in a new light, and I don't think he'll be able to look away. Final verdict. This chapter is the story's turning point, the moment when hidden identities start to surface and carefully constructed facades begin to crack. The writing is lean but emotionally rich, every scene building toward that devastating final reveal. If you've been waiting for Keira to stop surviving and start winning, this is where the game changes. Buckle up. Chapter 34. The Phantom Caller. When masks slip and power shifts when Keira answers her own phone as Dr. South, without Isla realizing, the stage is set for a deliciously ironic power play. But the real drama unfolds in a corporate battlefield where Jake's promotion threatens to dismantle everything Jalen has built. What happened? This chapter is a masterclass in dramatic irony and shifting power dynamics, starting with a phone call that nearly gives the whole game away. Isla, rummaging through her mother's phone, hears a voice she recognizes all too well, Keira's. For a terrifying moment, the reader holds their breath alongside Isla, wondering if Keira's double life as Dr. South has been exposed. But Keira, ever quick on her feet, manages to deflect suspicion through sheer audacity. And a convenient overlap in nicknames. The confrontation that follows is pure venom from Isla, who drops all pretense of civility to remind Keira of her place as a mistress and a toy. But Keira's response, a flat, unaffected then, "Congratulations," is so perfectly dismissive that it leaves Isla sputtering into the void. The chapter's slyest twist comes when Keira, now wearing her Dr. South persona, answers a WhatsApp call from Mrs. Olsen. Isla, completely oblivious, treats Dr. South with the deference she'd never show Keira herself, making her pitch for the Horton Group's R&D team. Keira's curt refusal, "I only take responsibility for companies under Mrs. Olsen's name," is a knife twist so subtle Isla won't feel it until later. It's the kind of moment that makes you want to cheer. Monday morning brings a different kind of tension. Lewis, under the guise of Grandma's orders, picks Keira up for work, and the ride is a study in awkward formality. The selfie he demands for proof is a hilarious bit of bureaucratic nonsense, and the accidental brush of Keira's hair against his face leaves him momentarily paralyzed, a small, human crack in his otherwise impenetrable armor. But the real fireworks explode in the R&D department, where Jake's sudden promotion to vice president is announced. He's leveraged his supposed connection to Dr. South to climb the ladder, and he immediately sets his sights on dismantling Jalen's authority. The confrontation between Jake and Jalen is raw and electric, a clash of egos that exposes the fragile politics of corporate hierarchy. Jake wants Jalen's intern Keira, and he's willing to burn the entire department's progress to get her. Key moments. Keira answers Mrs. Olsen's phone, and Isla recognizes her voice, nearly exposing her double identity. Isla's vicious rant about Keira being nothing more than a mistress and a toy is met with Keira's chilling indifference. Keira, disguised as Dr. South, refuses Isla's corporate offer and hangs up, maintaining her secret. Lewis picks Keira up for work under false pretenses, and the car ride is filled with unspoken tension. Jake announces his promotion and immediately challenges Jalen's authority, demanding Keira be transferred to his team. Character development. This chapter peels back layers of Keira that we've only glimpsed before. Her quick thinking when Isla recognizes her voice shows a woman who's learned to survive through deception, not out of malice but necessity. There's a haunting moment of reflection when she considers why she chose South as her nickname as a child, never thinking how it might wound Mrs. Olsen. It's a rare glimpse of vulnerability, of regret for a past she can't undo. But that vulnerability doesn't paralyze her. It sharpens her. Her cold refusal of Isla's request as Dr. South isn't just petty revenge, it's a declaration of independence. She'll work for Mrs. Olsen on her own terms, not as a pawn in Isla's games. Lewis continues to be an enigma wrapped in a suit and tie. His insistence on driving Keira to work, his demand for a photo for proof. These are the actions of a man looking for excuses to be close to someone, but he can't admit it, can't even acknowledge it to himself. That moment when Keira's hair brushes his face and he goes rigid like he's been electrocuted, it's the most human we've seen him. He's not the cold CEO in that moment, he's just a man caught off guard by proximity. Jalen's arc takes a desperate turn here. He's always been the rebellious underdog, but this chapter shows him backed into a corner. His outburst in the office, the chair he kicks in frustration, this is a man who knows he's losing ground. His refusal to hand over Keira isn't just professional, it's personal. He sees in her something worth protecting, or perhaps someone who can help him win this war. Jake, meanwhile, reveals himself as a predator dressed in corporate language. His promotion is built on a lie, the claim that he can communicate with Dr. South, and he's already abusing his power. The way he corners Jalen, offering help while demanding Keira in return, is manipulation at its most transparent. My thoughts. This chapter grabbed me by the throat and didn't let go. The phone call sequence alone is worth the price of admission. The sheer dramatic tension of Keira being caught mid-disguise, the irony of Isla bowing and scraping to the very person she just insulted. It's the kind of writing that makes you want to highlight entire paragraphs and text them to friends. The author understands something crucial. Secrets are only as powerful as the moment they're revealed, and stretching that moment to its breaking point is where the magic happens. The corporate showdown between Jake and Jalen is surprisingly gripping for what could have been dry office politics. The author has managed to make R&D department hierarchy feel like a knife fight in an alley. Jake's promotion feels earned in the worst way, through manipulation and false claims, and watching Jalen squirm under the pressure is genuinely uncomfortable. The line, "I'll do it myself slowly. Don't bother asking doctor." South for me is Jalen at his most stubborn and most noble, even if it means sabotaging his own career. What I love most is how this chapter never forgets the human moments amidst the drama. Lewis's frozen reaction to Keira's hair, Keira's quiet reflection on her childhood choice of nickname, Tom in the front seat wondering if he missed grandma's instructions. These small beats prevent the chapter from becoming just another power struggle. They remind us that these characters have inner lives beyond the plot. Rating *****4. 85 What happens next? Jake's threat to have Jalen dismissed or demoted if he doesn't solve his core problem in 2 days is a ticking clock that will dominate the next chapter. Keira has already sent Jalen an email with the solution. Will he swallow his pride and use it? Or will his stubbornness cost him everything? Meanwhile, Lewis's growing interest in Keira is a powder keg waiting to explode. The photo for proof excuse is wearing thin, and someone, probably Jake or Isla, is bound to notice that the CEO is taking a peculiar interest in an intern. And then there's Dr. South's refusal to work with the Horton group. How long before Jake realizes he's been promising something he can't deliver? Final Verdict Chapter 34 is a masterfully constructed piece of narrative engineering, balancing high-stakes deception with intimate character moments and corporate warfare. It advances multiple plotlines without feeling crowded, deepens our understanding of Keira's lonely double life, and sets up a conflict that promises to explode in the chapters ahead. The writing is sharp, the pacing is relentless, and the payoff for readers who have been following Keira's secret identity since the beginning is deeply satisfying. This is the kind of chapter that reminds you why serialized fiction can be so addictive. It leaves you hungry for more, desperate to know what happens when all these carefully balanced plates start to fall. Chapter 35, The Library, the Ladder, and a Stolen Glimpse in a World Where a Ph.D. can't crack the code, an undergraduate just might have the answer. But first, she has to survive her own team's scorn, a near-disastrous fall, and a moment of unexpected electricity with the CEO. What happened? This chapter opens with a delicious irony. While the entire R&D department is spiraling into panic mode, Jalen slamming documents, shouting at Luca, and threatening to resign if a core issue isn't solved in 2 days, Keira is blissfully unaware, reading in the library. Luca glances at what he assumes is a blank email attachment from her and dismisses it as a mistake. But we know better. That attachment? It's the solution. The moment he walks away from his computer, the file is sitting there, fully buffered, waiting. The tension in the office is palpable. Jalen, furious and desperate, delegates impossible workloads. Everyone is grinding their teeth, ready to pull all-nighters. And then someone mentions Keira. She clocked in, went to the library, and hasn't been seen since. The whispers turn ugly. Loafers. Ungrateful. Taking a salary and not working. Even Luca, who tries to defend her, sounds half-hearted. The team has already written her off as dead weight. Up on the roof, Tom is feeding Lewis the same narrative. But Lewis is sharper than that. He asks one crucial question. What book? When Tom admits he doesn't know, Lewis doesn't send a minion. He goes himself. He finds her in the neurology section, standing on a ladder, reaching for a high shelf. Her sweatshirt rides up and Lewis catches a glimpse of her waist. His mind, for a split second, wanders to a very unprofessional place. And then she stumbles. Keira falls directly into his arms. His hand ends up on her butt. The moment is charged, awkward, and brief. She blushes furiously, thanks him, and bolts. But before she leaves the library, she hides the book she found in a corner, worried someone else might steal it. When she finally returns to the office, the cold shoulder is unmistakable. Her colleagues, once friendly, now act like she's invisible. Luca tries to stop her from going to the library again in the afternoon, sighing that she hasn't finished her work. But when Keira calmly insists she has, Luca's brain short-circuits. Wait, what? Key moments. Luca discovers Keira's email attachment, but walks away before it finishes buffering, dismissing it as a blank error. Jalen threatens to resign in 2 days if the core issue isn't solved, rallying the team into a desperate frenzy. The team turns on Keira, accusing her of loafing while they break their backs. Lewis personally investigates Keira's library habits, catches her falling, and has an electric, hands-on encounter. Keira hides a critical book in the neurology section and returns to the office to find she's been socially exiled, until Luca realizes she might have actually finished her work. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in proving that perception is not reality. Keira is painted as the team's slacker, the pretty new hire who doesn't pull her weight. But every action she takes suggests the opposite. She's not loafing, she's strategizing. She's not avoiding work, she's found the exact book she needs. She hides it not out of selfishness, but out of a legitimate fear that someone else will take it before she can use it. There's a quiet, stubborn competence to her that the world refuses to see. Her blush after the fall is a rare crack in her armor. She's not just a machine of genius, but a young woman caught off guard by a powerful man's proximity. Lewis, on the other hand, is fascinating here. He's the CEO who should be above petty department drama, yet he can't stop himself from going to the library. He doesn't send Tom, he goes himself. That's not just curiosity, that's obsession in its early stages. The moment he notices her waist, the narration slips into his perspective. Her waist is so thin that I can wrap my hand around it. That's not a business thought. That's a man losing control. And when he catches her, the touch lingers in his mind long after she's gone. He's parched, at a loss. For the first time in his cutthroat career, Lewis Horton doesn't know what to do with his hands. Jalen and the team are written with frustrating realism. They're not evil, they're stressed, overworked, and quick to scapegoat. Jalen's decision to fight Jake for Keira earlier makes his current anger feel personal. Not professional, he's not just disappointed, he feels betrayed. And the team, smelling blood, turns into a pack. It's ugly, but it's human. My thoughts. I loved this chapter. It's the kind of setup that makes you want to scream at the characters. Luca, go back to your computer. Jalen, trust her. Lewis, stop ogling her waist and ask her what she's reading. But that's the point. The author is deliberately stacking the deck against Keira to make her eventual triumph feel earned. The library scene with Lewis is the standout. The tension is ridiculous in the best way. Here's a woman who just found a crucial research book, and she's being caught by the CEO, who's literally holding her butt. The juxtaposition of high-stakes professional drama and accidental intimacy is chef's kiss. It's awkward, it's hot, and it's human. Lewis's internal reaction, being parched and at a loss, is a brilliant choice. It humanizes a character who could easily be a cold, cardboard billionaire. I also appreciate how the author uses the email attachment as a ticking time bomb. We know it's the solution. Luca almost saw it. The entire team is working themselves to the bone for something Keira has already solved. That dramatic irony is delicious. Every moment the team scoffs at her, I was grinning, knowing the rug is about to be pulled out from under them. The only thing that slightly irked me was the team's sudden and complete alienation of Keira. It felt a little heavy-handed. One meeting, and everyone goes from neutral to hostile. It works for the plot, but I would have loved a small moment of doubt from at least one other person. Still, it's a minor complaint in an otherwise tightly paced chapter. Rating ******4. 8.5 What happens next? I'm calling it now. Luca is going to check that email. He'll realize the attachment wasn't blank, it was a full, brilliant solution. The team will be humiliated, Jalen will have to eat crow, and Keira will become the department's unlikely savior. But there's also the library book she hid. That's not just a random research text, it's clearly critical to her actual goal at Horton Group. Is she working on a side project? A personal vendetta? Something deeper than this one corporate problem? And Lewis is now officially obsessed. He's not going to just forget that waist or that touch. I'm betting he starts actively investigating her background, which could either blow up her secret plan or draw them into a dangerous romance. Final verdict. Chapter 35 is a slow burn setup that pays off in pure dramatic irony. It deepens every relationship, Keira versus the team, Keira versus Lewis, and Keira versus her own hidden agenda. The tension is laid thick, the miscommunication is frustratingly believable, and the physical chemistry between Keira and Lewis is off the charts. This is the kind of chapter that makes you grateful you're reading a completed novel because you can immediately click to the next page. A masterclass in making readers hold their breath. Chapter 36. Astonishment. The hidden depths of a quiet intern Keira casually drops a bombshell about an email attachment, sending Luca spiraling into a frantic discovery that will shake the entire R&D department, while she faces mounting hostility from colleagues who have no idea they're standing next to a genius. What happened? This chapter delivers a masterclass in dramatic irony, and I was absolutely gripping the pages. It opens with Luca frozen in disbelief, as Keira matter-of-factly reveals she sent the completed new energy development report to his inbox last Friday. The poor man had dismissed it as an empty email entirely. When he finally scrambles to his workstation and discovers the attachment is very much real, you can practically feel his heart pounding through the text. While Luca immerses himself in the complex technical report, Keira heads to the 60th floor archives, completely unaware that her work is about to reshape the team's entire project trajectory. But here's where the tension ratchets up brilliantly. The elevator scene is pure workplace warfare dressed in passive aggression. A group of colleagues, already hostile toward Keira for her perceived laziness, forces her off the overloaded elevator despite her having boarded first. The snide comments cut deep. "You're so idle. You don't actually need to work." It's the kind of subtle office cruelty that makes your blood boil because it's so painfully realistic. The situation worsens when Keira discovers her neuroscience book has vanished from the library. Her deduction that only one person could have taken it leads her thoughts to Louis on the top floor, but the memory of their earlier embrace leaves her too flustered to confront him. Meanwhile, Louis sits flipping through her book, intrigued by her mysterious reading choices and inexplicably reluctant to return it. Back in the R&D department, the vultures are circling. Jalen and the exhausted team members launch into a full-blown verbal attack on Keira, accusing her of being a freeloader who contributes nothing. When Keira calmly refuses to run errands, explaining that printing coffee orders isn't in her job description, the hostility explodes. Jalen slams his hand on the table, demanding she leave if she won't work. And then, right on cue, Luca bursts through the door, eyes blazing with realization, grabbing Jalen's arm with fanatical excitement. The timing is absolutely devastatingly perfect. Key moments. Luca discovers the email attachment is real and immerses himself in Keira's completed technical report. Keira is humiliated and forced off the elevator by hostile colleagues despite having entered first. Keira's neuroscience book has vanished from the 60th floor library, and she realizes Louis must have taken it. Louis examines Keira's book, curious about her intentions, and refuses to return it despite Tom's suggestion. Jalen erupts in fury at Keira for refusing to do menial tasks. Just moments before Luca's explosive discovery, character development. Keira continues to be one of the most fascinating protagonists I've encountered in recent fiction. Her quiet resilience is something else entirely. She absorbs the elevator humiliation with a researcher's patience, understanding workplace frustration from personal experience. But what strikes me most is her unwavering sense of professional boundaries. When confronted with demands to fetch coffee and run errands, she doesn't crumble or lash out. She simply states that those tasks aren't in her job description. This isn't arrogance. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly what she's worth and refuses to be diminished. Her hesitation to confront Louis about the book, rooted in the awkward memory of their embrace, adds a lovely layer of vulnerability that keeps her from feeling too untouchable. Jalen's arc in this chapter is particularly painful to watch. He genuinely tried to defend Keira earlier, but now his frustration has curdled into something uglier. His outburst, "If you don't want to work, you're welcome to leave," feels like a betrayal of his own better instincts. He's so convinced of his reading of the situation that he can't see the truth standing right in front of him. And Louis continues to be an enigma wrapped in power. His decision to keep Keira's book stems from something beyond mere curiosity. The detail about him remembering the feeling of her in his arms and suddenly feeling dry-mouthed suggests a vulnerability he's not ready to acknowledge. My thoughts. This chapter is an absolute masterwork of tension and dramatic payoff. Every single scene builds toward that final moment with Luca, and when it arrives, it's like watching a pressure cooker finally blow. The author understands something crucial about storytelling. The most satisfying revelations hit hardest when the audience knows something the characters don't. We've been watching Keira work in the shadows, delivering results the team can't even begin to comprehend, while they treat her like garbage. The impending face-off when everyone learns the truth is going to be glorious. What I love most is how grounded this all feels. There's no melodrama here, just the everyday cruelty of office politics mixed with the quiet brilliance of someone who refuses to perform her intelligence for others. Keira's refusal to do menial tasks isn't pride, it's self-respect. And the way the author shows her processing the hostility, taking a deep breath, stepping off the elevator, moving on, without making her a doormat is genuinely impressive. She's not weak for avoiding conflict, she's strategic. #rating *******4. 85 # what happens next? The stage is set for an absolutely spectacular confrontation. Luca's discovery means the entire team is about to learn that their useless intern solved their core technical problem last week without breaking a sweat. The timing of his revelation, right after Jalen's explosive outburst, suggests fireworks of epic proportions. I'm betting the bonus distribution conversation is about to get very interesting. Meanwhile, Lewis's growing fixation on Keira's book and his reluctance to return it hints at something deeper brewing between them. Will she finally confront him? And how will the team's dynamics shift when they realize Keira isn't just competent, she's essential? Final verdict: this chapter is a masterful blend of workplace tension, character-driven drama, and perfectly timed revelation. It takes what could have been a simple, prodigy is underestimated, trope, and elevates it through nuanced character work and genuine emotional stakes. The slow burn payoff of Keira's hidden abilities sets up what promises to be one of the most satisfying confrontation scenes in the entire novel. Chapter 37. Touching. When the underdog becomes the lifeline ***, when brilliant solution shatters every assumption, and Keira proves that credentials mean nothing next to raw ability. But Jake's desperate power play threatens to turn her triumph into a tug-of-war. What happened? The lab erupts into chaos when Luca bursts through the door screaming that the problem is solved. Jalen thinks his colleague has finally snapped under pressure, but the rest of the team quickly realizes Luca isn't joking. He drags Jalen to his computer and unveils a solution so elegant, so perfectly tailored to their months-long struggle that everyone is stunned into silence. Then Jalen notices the sender of the email, Keira. The revelation lands like a grenade. This young woman, the one they dismissed as a clueless undergraduate, the one they mocked in the elevator, the one they accused of coasting on connections, cracked the problem in her first week. She solved in days what their entire team couldn't conquer in a month. Keira stands there aloof, almost bored, and asks with devastating nonchalance, "So, this is the problem you've been wrestling with?" The subtext screams that's it. The researchers, to their credit, don't double down on their arrogance. They apologize, genuinely and humbly, admitting they were wrong about her. Jalen extends a hand and welcomes her properly. It feels like the beginning of something real, until the research director and Jake walk in, applause cutting through the fragile peace. Jake immediately recognizes the danger. Keira's talent is undeniable, but he can't afford to let her shine too brightly, not when he needs to consolidate his power. So he plays his trump card, Dr. South, the legendary technical genius whose name makes researchers swoon. He dangles Dr. South's guidance as a carrot, demanding Keira be transferred to his team in exchange for the group's access to this mythical figure. It's a masterful manipulation. Jake knows the team's desperation. He knows the allure of working alongside a genius. He expects them to fold. But Jalen refuses. And then Keira, tired of being a pawn, steps forward with ice in her voice. "Did you ask for my consent before using Dr. South as a bargaining chip?" Key moments, Luca reveals Keira's email with the complete solution, shocking the entire team. The researchers apologize one by one for their earlier contempt and dismissal of her. Jalen officially welcomes Keira to the team, signaling a shift from reluctant acceptance to genuine respect. Jake arrives and weaponizes Dr. South's name to manipulate the team into giving up Keira. Keira's pointed question about Dr. South being used as a bargaining chip hints at a much deeper secret. Character development. This chapter is Keira's coronation moment, and she handles it with remarkable restraint. She doesn't gloat. She doesn't rub their faces in their mistake. When the team apologizes, she simply says, "It's okay," and moves on. That emotional maturity, especially from someone who endured such blatant disrespect, speaks volumes about her character. She's not here for revenge or validation, she's here to do the work. Her quiet confidence is far more intimidating than any outburst could have been. Jalen's arc is equally compelling. He started as the skeptical, arrogant team leader who resented being forced to take on Keira. Now he stands firm against Jake's manipulation, refusing to trade her away even when Dr. South is the promised reward. There's a subtle pride in his defiance, not the toxic ego from before, but the protective pride of a leader who finally recognizes the value of his team member. His no to Jake is simple, direct, and carries the weight of genuine respect. Jake, meanwhile, reveals himself as the story's true antagonist. He's not just ambitious, he's calculating and willing to use anyone as currency. His offer to trade Keira for Dr. South's technical support is nakedly transactional, treating a human being like a bargaining chip. And his internal monologue, where he acknowledges Keira's potential but dismisses her because she's an illegitimate daughter, lays bare his ugly priorities. He values status over talent, control over collaboration. The team members also deserve mention. Their apologies feel earned because they're simple and direct. Researchers tend to be straightforward people, and their immediate pivot from scorn to admiration is both believable and refreshing. They're not villains, they were frustrated and wrong, and they own it. My thoughts, this chapter hits that sweet spot where intellectual triumph meets emotional payoff, and I am here for it. There's nothing more satisfying in fiction than watching a dismissed underdog absolutely demolish everyone's expectations, and Keira does it without breaking a sweat. The way she stands there, radiating quiet competence while the entire team stumbles over their apologies, is pure catnip for anyone who's ever been underestimated. I especially love the author's choice to have Keira solve the problem off-screen. We don't get a dramatic montage of her staying up late, scribbling equations, or having a eureka moment. Instead, we just get the result, and that makes her feel even more formidable. She's not someone who needs to perform her genius, she just delivers. That restraint in storytelling is a mark of confident writing. The tension escalates beautifully when Jake enters. Just when Keira earns her victory, he tries to undercut it by dangling Dr. South like a shiny toy. And then Keira drops that bombshell line about not consenting to Dr. South being used as leverage. For readers paying attention, this is a massive clue. We know Keira has a hidden connection to this mysterious figure. Is she Dr. South, a former student? The chapter doesn't confirm anything, but it crackles with implication. The only minor quibble I have is that the team's apology felt slightly too neat. Real life rarely produces such tidy redemption arcs. But in a novel, especially one building toward larger conflicts, I'll accept a slightly accelerated resolution in exchange for the emotional catharsis. Rating ******4. 8.5 What happens next? The reveal is coming, and it's going to be explosive. Keira's pointed question makes clear she has personal stakes in how Dr. South's name is used. My money is on Keira herself being Dr. South, or at least having worked directly with them. The way she dismissed Jake's bargaining chip suggests she knows exactly what Dr. South would actually think of this situation. Meanwhile, Jake's power play has failed for now, but he won't back down easily. He's cornered and desperate to secure his position. Expect him to escalate, possibly by digging into Keira's background or trying to manufacture reasons to force her transfer. Jalen and Team 1 will need to close ranks and protect their newest and most valuable member. Final verdict: this chapter is a masterclass in payoff. The slow burn of Keira's first week culminates in a triumphant reveal that redefines every character dynamic while planting seeds for future conflict. The writing is tight, the emotional beats are earned, and the ending leaves you desperate for the next chapter. If you love stories about underestimated geniuses finally getting their due, this is prime literary comfort food with a sharp edge. Chapter 52. The Dr. South Gambit. Pride, power, and a proposal that changes everything. When Keira finally has the chance to reveal her true identity as Dr. South, Lucas steps in to block her, and what follows is a high-stakes wager with Jake that exposes old wounds, new loyalties, and the quiet brilliance that no one in the room fully understands yet. What happened? The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a scalpel. Keira is standing there, a single sentence away from dropping the bomb, I am Dr. South, when Luca physically steps in front of her. Just like that, he shuts it down. And what's worse, the entire team falls in line behind him. They start chirping about following Jalen's instructions, suddenly acting like they've never doubted Keira's competence a moment in their lives. You can feel the betrayal radiating off. Keira, these were the same people who, half an hour ago, were tearing into her for her supposed lack of productivity. Now they're circling the wagons around her because Jake, the deputy head with Horton family blood, has shown up to throw his weight around. It's not loyalty, it's survival, and that might sting even more. Jake isn't stupid. He sees what's happening and immediately turns the screws. If the team doesn't need Dr. South's help, then surely they can handle the final integration task in 1 week. A task that normally takes months. Jalen protests, but Jake just smirks and says Dr. South could do it in 3 days, so a week is generous. Keira follows him out. She doesn't yell. She doesn't explain. She just asks him to make a bet. And this is where the chapter really shines. Jake is transported back to senior year of college when he challenged Keira to a thesis-writing competition. He remembers thinking he'd won. He stayed up for nights, finished first, planned to give her a gift at graduation. But she shows him the timestamp on her email. She submitted the day after the bet was made. She'd been done before he even started. The bet is simple. If Group 1 submits the solution by Friday and Dr. South hasn't provided one to Jake, he backs off permanently. If they fail and Dr. South delivers, Keira follows his orders from now on. Jake agrees, still convinced Dr. South is on his side. Keira just smiles coldly and asks, "Did Dr. South actually promise you anything?" Back in the office, the team has put on a performance of defeat, sighing, making jokes about how meeting Dr. South wouldn't suddenly boost their IQs to 250. But when Keira leaves for the day, thinking everyone's gone home, they all trickle back. They're working overtime. They're not giving up. And in the parking lot, Lewis is waiting in his Bentley, holding a thick book. He waits until Keira gets in before telling Tom to drive. He was waiting for her. Just that quiet gesture, no words needed. Then we cut to the hospital, where Poppy is trying to sweet-talk old Mrs. Horton, calling herself Keira's mother. The old woman shuts her down hard. "You are not her mother. Mrs. Olsen is her mother." And Poppy's face goes white, because somehow the Horton matriarch knows something she shouldn't. Key moments, Luca physically blocks Keira from revealing she is Dr. South, and the team falls in line, prioritizing self-preservation over solidarity. Jake gives Group 1 the impossible task of completing months of work. In 1 week, a direct consequence of their refusal to need Dr. South's help, Keira proposes a bet with Jake, forcing him to confront his past failure in their college thesis competition. The revelation that Keira submitted her thesis the day after the bet, winning before Jake even started, shatters his understanding of their history. Lewis waits for Keira in the parking lot. A small but significant gesture of protective presence. Poppy's slip about Keira's parentage, and old Mrs. Horton's chilling knowledge that Poppy isn't the real mother. Character development. This chapter is a masterclass in layered character work. Keira is operating on multiple levels simultaneously, as the underestimated team member, as the hidden genius Dr. South, and as the woman who still carries the weight of her past with Jake, when she could have simply revealed her identity and ended the entire conflict. She chooses not to. Or rather, she's prevented from doing so by Luca, but she doesn't force the issue. There's a quiet calculation in her silence. She knows that revealing herself now would solve the immediate problem but cost her something intangible, maybe the chance to prove to the team that they do need Dr. South to save them. They need to save themselves. Jake, on the other hand, is caught in a fascinating contradiction. He's the legitimate grandson throwing his weight around, but he's still the same insecure boy who stayed up nights trying to beat Keira at a thesis. His arrogance is armor. When he sees that email timestamp, you can almost hear the crack in his pride. He's been carrying this narrative of Keira as the pathetic, illegitimate daughter who wasted his 4 years of pursuit, and in one moment, he realizes he's been the one chasing shadows. She was never behind him. She was always ahead. The team dynamics deserve real attention too. These aren't bad people, they're scared people. They attacked Keira earlier because she was an easy target. They now defend her because Jake is a bigger threat. Luca's decision to block her identity reveal is telling. He's protecting her from protecting them, forcing her to be part of the team rather than its savior. It's messy and complicated and very human. My thoughts, I genuinely loved this chapter. It's the kind of scene that reminds me why I love smart, layered storytelling. On the surface, it's a workplace power struggle with a ticking clock. But underneath, it's about the weight of secrets, the pain of being underestimated, and the strange ways people choose to protect each other. The bet structure is brilliant. Because it isn't just about the current project. It's Jake and Keira relitigating their entire history. He's still trying to win something he lost years ago, and she's still having to prove herself to someone she already beat. There's something tragic about that. Jake could have had a real collaboration with Dr. South if he'd just been a better person. But his ego got in the way. And now, he's betting against someone who is actually Dr. South without knowing it. The dramatic irony is delicious. I also love the quiet moments. Lewis waiting in the car, holding his book, not saying anything. Old Mrs. Horton standing guard outside a hospital room like a bouncer. Poppy sweating when her lie gets exposed. The team pretending to leave and then sneaking back to work. These small scenes build a world that feels lived in and real. The pacing is tight, the dialogue sharp, and the emotional beats land hard. The only reason I'm not giving it a perfect 5 is that I desperately want to see the moment when everyone's masks finally come off, and this chapter built up that anticipation without delivering the payoff. Which, to be fair, is exactly what a great chapter should do. Rating *******4. 8.5 What happens next? There are 3 threads I'm watching closely. First, the bet. Keira is going to have to work miracles in a week, and she can't reveal she's Dr. South without breaking the terms. So either she finds a way to help the team anonymously, or someone discovers the truth by accident. Second, Poppy. Old Mrs. Horton clearly knows something about Keira's real parentage, and Poppy is terrified. That secret is going to unravel soon, and when it does, it could rewrite everything Keira knows about her own history. And third, Lewis. He's not just sitting around reading books. He's watching Keira. He's waiting for her. The man has plans, and I suspect those plans involve more than just driving her to and from work. The question is whether he's an ally or someone with his own agenda. Final verdict. This chapter is a perfect example of how to escalate stakes without resorting to melodrama. It takes a simple workplace conflict and layers it with history, identity, and the quiet desperation of people trying to survive corporate politics. Keira continues to be a compelling protagonist, brilliant but restrained, powerful yet invisible by choice. The bet with Jake is both a satisfying callback to their past and a promise of explosive future conflict. If the novel maintains this momentum, we're in for something special. Chapter 39, Truth. When family ties burn the scales of justice. Tip: when an old woman's ramblings reveal a buried secret, a mother's thermos becomes a weapon, and a husband takes the heat. Literally. What happened? This chapter is a masterclass in dramatic irony wrapped in scalding chicken soup. Poppy, already trembling with guilt, faces old Mrs. Horton's unexpected accusation. The old lady knows about the switched daughters. But here's the thing, Mrs. Horton's mind is slipping, so her bombshell lands like a dud, dismissed as senile rambling. Poppy breathes a sigh of relief, but we don't. We know the truth is sitting there, fragile as glass. Poppy, seizing the moment, switches tactics from terrified to manipulative. She approaches Keira with a thermos of chicken broth, the first soup she's ever made for her daughter. The irony isn't lost on Keira, who responds with cold precision. What do you want? Poppy wants Isla's shares, hoping Keira will leverage her influence with old Mrs. Horton. When Keira refuses, Poppy unleashes the ultimate weapon of the emotionally bankrupt, a public tantrum. She collapses onto the floor, wailing about her ungrateful daughter, and the hospital corridor becomes a theater of judgment. The medical staff and patients whisper their condemnations. Keira stands frozen, a statue of humiliation. But she recovers, suggests security will escort Poppy out, and tries to walk away. That's when Poppy, in a fit of spite, hurls the thermos full of boiling soup at her daughter's back. Enter Lewis. He wraps himself around Keira like a human shield, taking the scalding liquid across his back. The steam rises from his black suit. The burn blisters instantly. And in that moment, something shifts. Old Mrs. Horton, in a stroke of matchmaking genius, clears the room and thrusts burn cream into Keira's hands, leaving them alone. The twilight light spills through the window as Keira tends to his wounds, her fingertips trembling against his skin. But Keira isn't done. She leaves with a chilling promise, take revenge. And when she goes looking for Poppy, she finds something far more dangerous. Her real mother, Isla, in a hushed conversation with Uncle Finley. He's blackmailing Isla, threatening to reveal the truth to Taylor and Mrs. Olsen. And then Keira steps through the door, backlit demanding, "What truth?" #key moments, Old Mrs. Horton accuses Poppy of switching the girls with unsettling certainty, but her senility renders the accusation ineffective. Poppy offers Keira chicken soup. The first nurturing gesture ever. Then demands Isla's shares in exchange. Poppy's public meltdown in the hospital corridor. Complete with theatrical wailing and accusations of ungratefulness, Lewis intercepts the scalding thermos hurled at Keira, taking severe burns across his back. Keira discovers Finley blackmailing Isla, threatening to expose the baby swap secret, and she overhears everything. Character development. This chapter peels back layers of Keira we haven't seen before. She's always been competent, sharp, and emotionally guarded, but here we witness something raw, a woman who has never been mothered. When Poppy offers soup, Keira doesn't feel warmth, she feels irony. Her question, "What do you want?" isn't cynical, it's learned. She knows love comes with price tags in this family, but watch how she changes after Lewis gets hurt. That cold exterior cracks. She takes responsibility for his injury, insisting on applying the ointment herself, and when she says, "Take revenge," there's a fire in her that isn't selfish, it's protective. She's been wounded her whole life, but wounding Lewis crosses a line. Lewis, typically the stoic CEO who controls everything, reveals his tenderness through action. He doesn't hesitate. He moves, he takes the burn. And when he says, "You forgot, you're now my wife," it's not possessive. It's claiming. He's telling her she belongs somewhere, that she's not an outsider in his world. The moment is intimate, almost sacred. His muscles tensing under her touch, her breath against his burned skin, this is where their marriage of convenience starts feeling inconveniently real. And Poppy, she's not a villain exactly. She's a woman drowning in her own lies, lashing out because she has nothing left but manipulation. The public tantrum is pathetic and desperate. She's not evil, she's broken. But broken people still break others, and Keira has the scars to prove it. My thoughts. This chapter burns in every sense. The thermos of chicken soup is a beautiful, terrible metaphor. It's supposed to be nurturing, maternal, healing. Instead, it becomes a weapon. Poppy's love, if you can call it that, has always been scalding, always left blisters. Lewis taking that hit for Keira is the narrative equivalent of saying, "I'll take the pain you've been carrying." It's romantic in a way that doesn't feel manufactured. It feels earned. Hospital scene where Keira applies the ointment is some of the best writing in this chapter. The golden twilight, the long shadows, the tension humming between them, it could easily be overwrought, but it's not. It's restrained. She's focused, clinical, trying not to feel. And he's watching her in the window reflection, noticing how seriously she treats his wound like it's a priceless antique. That line is devastating. No one has treated Keira like something precious, but she treats him that way, and that ending, the door pushes open. Keira stands backlit. What truth? It's a mic drop. The chapter could have ended with the tender moment, but instead it pivots into thrilling territory. This isn't just a romance or a family drama, it's a mystery unraveling in real time. The secret is about to blow open, and Keira is standing right in the blast zone. Rating *******4. 8.5 What happens next? The secret is out, or it's about to be. Finley, cornered, will likely spill everything. But will Keira believe him? Will she confront Isla directly? And what will Lewis do when he learns the woman he married isn't who he thought she was? The bigger question is, now that Keira knows Isla is her biological mother, does she want that relationship? Isla has been complicit in this lie for years. Maybe Keira will use this information as leverage, or maybe she'll walk away from both families entirely. Either way, the power dynamic has shifted. Poppy is exposed. Isla is desperate. And Keira finally has the truth. Final verdict: this chapter is a turning point, emotionally, relationally, and plot-wise. It balances tender intimacy with explosive confrontation, giving us the first real glimpse of Keira and Lewis as a ** team**. The writing is sharp, the dialogue cuts deep, and the final reveal lands with perfect timing. If the novel has been building a house of cards, this chapter pulls out the bottom one. Everything is about to come crashing down, and I can't wait to watch. Chapter 41, Rejection. The price of a secret. Keira catches Isla red-handed in a web of lies and blackmail, exposing just how desperate the perfect Miss Olsen really is, and how close she is to losing everything. What happened? The chapter opens with a jolt as Keira materializes behind Isla and Finley, catching them mid-conspiracy. Isla panics, immediately going on the offensive, accusing Keira of eavesdropping to deflect attention from their shady meeting. But Keira isn't buying it. She zeroes in on Finley, offering him cold, hard cash for whatever truth he's peddling. Finley's eyes light up like slot machines, but he's a cunning little rodent. He plays both women against each other, ultimately settling on Isla as his more reliable cash cow. He struts off, leaving a trail of veiled threats. Keira doesn't waste a second. She texts Samuel to dig into Finley, brushes off an industry invitation, and then corners Isla. Keira's observation is surgical. Isla is strapped for cash because she's paying Finley monthly for a secret. Isla snaps back with venom, her eyes flashing something dangerous. When Keira asks about Poppy, Isla practically explodes. "That's your mother, how would I know?" The scene cuts to Keira tracking Poppy down, only to get screamed at over the phone. Poppy refuses to apologize to Mr. Horton, demands her daughter cover for her, and when Keira threatens to call the police, Poppy unleashes a torrent of verbal abuse so vile it's almost breathtaking. Keira hangs up, unbothered, and follows through. Poppy gets 48 hours in custody. Back at the hospital, Keira apologizes to old Mrs. Horton, but the old lady brushes it off with a warm "we're all family," a line that hits Keira like a freight train. For the first time in her life, the word family doesn't feel like a curse. Meanwhile, Isla is scrambling. She sells a bag, scrapes together $10,000, and warns Finley to keep his mouth shut. He reassures her, but Isla knows she's sitting on a bomb. She needs to marry Jake fast. Then Jake shows up. He's suspicious about Dr. South. Isla fumbles, promises to arrange a meeting, and immediately emails Keira, posing as Dr. South with a technical problem from the Horton group. Keira sees right through it. She opens the attachment, scoffs, and replies. Isla opens the email, thinking she's saved herself, but the reader knows better. Key moments. Keira walks in on Isla and Finley's secret meeting. Instantly sniffing out blackmail, Keira offers Finley money. He plays both women like a fiddle. Keira orders background checks on Finley and calmly dismantles Isla's lies. Poppy's phone call. A masterclass in toxic motherhood ending with her arrest. Old Mrs. Horton calls Keira family. Cracking her emotional armor, Isla sells a bag to pay Finley. Revealing her desperate financial state, Jake presses Isla about Dr. South. Forcing her to use Keira as her cover, Isla emails Keira with Horton Group's technical problems. Exposing her fraud. Character development. Keira continues to evolve from the cold, calculating outsider into someone who might actually want to stay. Her response to old Mrs. Horton's family remark is the chapter's emotional anchor. That moment of stunned silence, the realization that she might belong somewhere. She's still sharp as a blade, texting Samuel, cornering Isla, blackmailing Finley with surgical precision. But there's a crack in her armor, and it's humanizing her. Her refusal to let Poppy's abuse slide, calling the police on her own mother, isn't cruelty. It's self-respect. She's drawing lines in the sand, and it's riveting to watch. Isla is unraveling in slow motion, and it's glorious. Every scene reveals another layer of her desperation. She's paying Finley monthly for a secret that could ruin her. She's selling her designer bags to scrape together $10,000. She's pretending to have Dr. South's ear while actually begging Keira for help. She's clinging to the Horton family like a drowning woman, believing marriage to Jake will save her. But the cracks are showing. The ruthlessness in her eyes when she snapped at Keira, that's not a woman in control. That's a cornered animal. Her panic is palpable, and it's only going to get worse. Finley is the wild card. Slimy, opportunistic, and grinning like a fool while playing both sides. He's the kind of character you love to hate, a small-time operator who stumbled onto big-time secrets. His exit line about the secret being always valuable is practically a promise that he'll be back with his hand out. And Jake, poor, suspicious Jake, is finally starting to question things. His visit to Isla feels like the first domino in a long chain of consequences. My thoughts, this chapter is a masterclass in tension and payoff. The pacing is relentless. We're thrown from confrontation to confrontation, and every single one lands. Keira catching Isla and Finley isn't just a plot point, it's a statement. Keira sees everything and she's done playing nice. The way she dismantles Isla's lies with just a few pointed questions, "You're paying him every month. How big of a secret do you owe him?" is absolutely chef's kiss. But the emotional gut punch comes from an unexpected place. Poppy. That phone call is brutal. The vitriol she spews at Keira, "I should have drowned you, thrown you into a manure pit, sold you to a brothel," is gratuitous and vile, and that's exactly why it works. It's not melodrama. It's a window into the abuse Keira has endured her entire life. And Keira's response, she hangs up and calls the police. No tears, no bargaining, no begging for love. That's growth, that's strength. She's finally stopped hoping Poppy will change. The family moment with old Mrs. Horton is the perfect antidote. After all that poison, we get this quiet, tender line, "We're all family here," and Keira doesn't know how to handle it. She's never had that. The author lets the moment breathe, and it's beautiful. This chapter works because it balances darkness with warmth, cruelty with kindness, and leaves us desperate for what comes next. The ending is a cliffhanger that almost made me scream. Isla, desperate and reckless, emails Keira with Horton Group's problems, thinking she's outsmarted everyone. But Keira sees right through her pathetic scheme. The door is wide open for Keira to destroy Isla with a single email. The question is, will she? Rating ****485. What happens next? Isla is walking a tightrope, and I fully expect Keira to cut the rope. The email exchange is a ticking bomb. Keira now has proof that Isla is impersonating Dr. South. One forwarded message to Jake, and the entire Horton family would know the truth. But Keira is patient. She's been playing the long game from the start. She might let Isla dig her own grave a little deeper before pulling the trigger. But Isla's desperation is escalating. She's selling bags, lying to her fiancé, and blackmailing a criminal. She's going to make a mistake, a big one. My guess? Finley will be the one who spills the real secret, whether for money or self-preservation. And when that secret comes out, Isla's carefully constructed life will collapse like a house of cards. As for Poppy, she's in custody, but that woman is a loose cannon. She's not done causing chaos. And Keira's relationship with Lewis? It's simmering in the background. He left for a meeting, but his absence feels intentional. The author is saving their reunion for something huge. Final verdict: this chapter is a turning point. The masks are slipping, secrets are surfacing, and the battlefield is set. Keira has stopped being a victim and started becoming a force. Isla is spiraling into desperation. The plot is tightening like a noose, and every character arc is deepening in unexpected ways. The emotional weight of the family scene, the viciousness of Poppy's call, and the tension of the email exchange make this one of the most satisfying chapters yet. Buckle up, the reckoning is coming.
Welcome to NovelsAudio.com. We hope you have a relaxing and enjoyable time.